What's good, guys? So today we got our show. You know, first time in a while the three of us been together, but it should be fun.
Yes.
We'll see if JP joins us a little bit later. He's running late, but to honor the time, we want to make sure we start at 8:30. How you guys been?
Chilling, man. Chilling.
Good,
That's
man. It's been good. It's been good. It's been fun lately, man. Busy, but in a good way. So I'm happy about that.
Kevin. You're always busy. Yeah, that is a fact. Let me just change this up right here. Yeah, I like it like that. That's
There
much
you
better.
go. I like that too. That is much better.
Yeah, that other one was way too much. But yeah, today our topic is gonna be all about soulmates and dating apps, which actually is actually really good that we have three married men here, so we can give experience. Um, Nate just speak about in general, like what do we believe, or should a Christian be using them? Also, just the idea of soulmates, do they exist? Is that biblical? Is that not? Because we have a lot of young people that tune into these channels, and what I've noticed from the young people that tune in, a lot of their interest is going to be naturally on finding a soulmate or finding a person that they want to do their life with, or just in general. There's a lot of Christians are using uh, not social media but dating apps more and more frequently, to the point where we have Christian dating apps. Not just, I think there's a lot of Christian dating apps out there, not just Christian Mingle. So this has really exploded. The dating app is super popular now, and Christians are jumping on it. But there's a subsection of the Christian population that questions is this biblical? Is this something that I should be doing? Should I be doing things the traditional way? Should I be finding my wife in the church or in a local church, or do I have to go to a different church to find my wife? Like, what do I need to do to navigate 2021? And for some people, they're not even officially attending the church right now, and they've probably been attending church through YouTube and through lives and through church giving out their lives for like the last year and a half due to the pandemic. So it's an interesting topic, and when JP comes on, I think we could get his viewpoint as a single man, because obviously our viewpoint shifted since we all been out of the game for at least, I would say, if we just start counting by dating, like all of us been out the game for at least 5 or 6 years. So things have
More
changed.
than
You
that. More
know,
than
like,
that. But all right. I'm not giving out ages out here.
but no, we all been out the game for a minute now. So like even myself, when I started dating my wife, I wouldn't say that I think there was still like more of a taboo with Christian dating apps. I started dating my wife in 2016. Yes, because I got married in 2018. So even then, like these questions were things where people are starting to ask, and now I assume that the newer generation is definitely asking. So, do any one of you gentlemen want to start? We could probably tackle first the Christian dating apps. Anybody want to start? See
I'll
some
let
people.
Manny start. He's
Why?
looking he's looking more
Because
dapper
I
than me
haven't been.
today. The beard
Why? Because I
looking
haven't been
sharp.
on for a
So
long time.
yes.
The beard and not being on, yeah, you definitely do us with some words of
you
wisdom.
you are due with some words of wisdom, my friend. So please
Oh man. All
start us
right. So
off, man.
dating apps. So this is my view or what I think about dating apps. Me personally, I don't recommend it, but I'm not gonna knock anyone who goes on it. Um, because I don't know their motivation. You know what I'm saying? If your motivation is wrong and you just feel desperate or whatever the case may be, then you have to check your heart. You know what I'm saying? Um, I went on a dating app twice, actually, yeah, 2 times, and this may sound bad, but I went on the dating app right after I left the Pentecostal church that I was in because they were not about that life.
No,
I felt
definitely.
like that child. I felt like that child was super overprotected from their parents. That when they finally got the freedom, they started doing all those things that the parents didn't like.
Right.
And
Yes.
I did go on dates. I met two people. Obviously, it didn't work out, not in a bad way, but eventually I did get married. And to be honest, I got married. I
Thank the
met
Lord
my
for
wife.
Kiana, right?
Say it again.
I said, thank the
Oh,
Lord for Kiana, right?
yeah. And I always laugh because I'll say I think I was destined to marry a Haitian because the first two girls that I dated on the dating app were two Haitians. So I'm like, okay, you know. But the point is that I met my wife on Instagram. Now, for me, it was different. It was like a divine appointment because I wasn't looking for nobody. She wasn't looking for anybody. I was living in New Jersey. She was in Miami. And now I'm here in Miami. But it was literally all God. Like, it was so unexpected. But I'm not against dating app as a whole. I just think that we just need to be very careful because there's a lot of people that are desperate, thirsty. Dating apps can be very fickle, you know, very superficial. You don't know who's really behind that screen, who's really telling the truth, you know. So I don't really necessarily recommend it. But again, there are people who actually make it through and get married, and I believe God can use that. I truly believe God can use that. You know, we do live in a digital world. You know what I'm saying? And people are meeting people different places or churches get together, have events. They meet through there. So overall, I'm not against it. I just wouldn't tell somebody, yeah, you should go on the dating app and see. You know, that's just my take on it. But that's where I'll leave it at that. That way, the other brother can speak up.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I thought you were gonna say something because you was reaching. Yeah, I kind of agree with you in a lot of instances, Manny. When you really look at the situation, I mean, we're in a different time frame, and when I was analyzing the topic, one of the things that came to my mind is like Facebook, right? And how so many people were against Facebook. So like I think every platform that has been created digitally, there's been so many people against it right away. And then eventually, through time, they've been forced to use it. And then they've seen, you know what, it actually is beneficial. You know what, it actually has helped me out in this specific thing, in this area, in this area. So for us, I think to be overcritical with dating apps, I think is an issue because, like I said, we use so much technology now that the times have changed. It's not the traditional thing to do. Obviously, the traditional thing for us, obviously, would be go meet a girl, talk to a girl, and take her out to a nice coffee or something like that, etc. But those things aren't as popular in today's day and age. And our younger kids, well, our kids, excuse me, and the younger generation, they're growing up with technology in their face all day, every day. This is the modern era that we're living in. So um, it's kind of tricky to uh, um, to kind of be very negative on the fact of, oh, you had to be on dating apps or etc. Or you can't use dating apps, etc. Because God, I mean, what does the scripture say? God uses whatever was intended for evil for good, right? So if there was an evil intent in the dating app, let's just say, God has used it for good for some, because some have found their wives and significant others, and some have found husbands, and some have actually made it out, and have a good testimony over their experience. Now, what I do agree with wholeheartedly is just the intention. The intention of it, I think, is where we could kind of have a conversation, because a lot of people do get desperate today, and they can use the dating app as a quick service to not want to push themselves to do what you should do. Like I always say, if you have an opportunity to see somebody, if you have an opportunity to call somebody, if you have an opportunity to step out and do something, you should do it, as opposed to either sending a text message or whatever, because you don't know what is really going on behind the scene, or you don't know the intention of the message as well. But when you're doing something in person and you're speaking to somebody in person, I think it has more personalization, and just a sense of intimacy that I don't think you can get behind a screen. And again, there's so much stuff going on where people put in false pictures of themselves, false testimonies of themselves. Some people not even putting pictures of who they really are up in there, so you don't know who you're really meeting. You know what I mean? So it could kind of twist a lot of things in the trusting God aspect of finding your partner, because your intention should always be serving the Lord first. So what does Matthew 6:33 say? Seek the kingdom of God first, and everything else will come after, right? Everything, God will supply all of the need. So if you're like, hey man, I really need a wife, or I really need a partner, et cetera, and you're turning towards the app as opposed to being intentional, maybe, and kind of asking the Holy Spirit to guide you with even people that you have within your life or friends that you have in your life. I think that should probably be the first intent for people, is ask God, what friends are near me that you're kind of speaking to me through, or or where am I? What circles am I being connected with that maybe might help you out towards that aspect, as opposed to just going directly into the digital age. So those are just some opinions before I kind of give what I feel. I
I
don't
want
know
to add
what
something
you
real
could
quick.
agree with.
I want to add something real quick, Ryan. That, and I love what you said too at the end. Also, I want to add that, what about accountability? You know what I'm saying? If you are a professing believer and as one that should be part of a local church, and you're on a dating app, like, who's holding you accountable? Because when I was dating my wife, that before we were married, like, people knew who she was, or as a matter of fact, more people knew who I was because I moved from Jersey to Miami, and I pretty much moved to her territory where her friend and family was. Like, we weren't doing this alone. Like, people needed to know who I was, out of protection for her as well. The pastor was involved and other leadership. Like, we need to be held accountable. So it's kind of hard to do that when you're on a dating app. And especially if you don't want to tell anybody that you're actually on a dating app dating somebody, that could be a big problem. The enemy can just slide right in and mess up everything.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right, so I mean, I'm in kind of in agreement with you guys in terms of dating apps for the most part. Actually, the only thing I will say is I don't necessarily condone dating apps. Like, not condone. I always get those words mixed up. I don't necessarily disagree or think that dating apps are sinful. I think what happened, that's not what you guys are. That's not the vibe you guys are giving out. So I want to clarify that you guys aren't saying that they're sinful or anything. I think that what's important is what dating apps these people are going on, because
Mm.
if you're saying, well, Rise said you can go on a dating app and then you end up going on Tinder. I'm not trying to
Mm.
tell you to go on a dating app that is known for
Right.
promiscuity and known
Yes.
for one night stands. So, like, you can go. That's like going into a bar and then going into a dance hall or whatever, and saying, I'm trying to find somebody. Like, you're putting yourself in a position where you're not supposed to be in the first place. So a lot of these dating apps, we have to be honest, do promote one night stands, especially
Mm-hmm.
the non-Christian ones. I have a non-Christian friend who uses dating apps primarily for that. And it's something that these people decide to do. That's not I want to say an alternative lifestyle, because that's what the world promotes. That's a lifestyle that's definitely within those dating app cultures, where it's okay, I'm meeting you so that we can have a one night stand, because I don't want a serious relationship, but I just really want a booty call. So if I'm a Christian, there's no reason why I should have a Tinder. That's first and foremost. There's no reason why I believe I should have like a Bumble or something. I think when it comes to Christian dating apps, if you're using it because you want to, obviously you're using it because the intent is you're trying to find somebody specific for you. Well, that's okay. But I think you also need to be very careful. I think when I was in 2016, 2015, 2014, I was young. I did try to do a dating app very briefly. And what you realize is on those dating apps, on even the Christian ones, is that they are very, very loose with the terminology Christian. So you can be using a dating app and you can easily yoke yourself to somebody that's not equal to you. I remember like in the terms, like they'll say, "Are you Christian?" But then they'll like, "Are you cool with smoking? Are you cool with this? Are you cool with that?" Like because different people view different things, and Christian and are like, "Are you Catholic? Are you Protestant?" Like these are all of the deciphering identifiers that you can put on your dating app to hone or to specify what your request is. So you need to be very wise in how you do it. At the same time, the reason why I'm not necessarily against dating apps is because I think that a lot of us live very, very busy lives. And a lot of us live such busy lives that the only time that we don't have necessarily the time out to go and look for somebody because it's work. A lot of people are like, just wait at your church. But if you're at a smaller church, the chances are, like, and we've seen it before, we had a small church, and then that one pretty girl comes, and then the 5 single guys are all fighting to the death for the one pretty girl.
It's over. Like, it's over, man.
Over. That one pretty girl is a thing.
She like a good piece of cornbread.
So that's one option. That's one option. Where, and then all is fair in love and war, right? So you're in a situation where like you're all fighting for the same female, or you're trying to capture her attention. The second option is you go to a different church or to church events to thing, and not a lot of people have a lot of time for that, especially as you get older. If you have stuff, if you have what does that say? If you have responsibilities at your church, if you have different things that are going on around your life, if you're working full time, the less time you have as an adult to have the opportunity to meet people necessarily. So it's hard. And I think in our society, I think that's why dating apps have been embraced so fondly. But I would tell any Christian that is on a dating app, it's really be very careful with who you're choosing, because you can easily go on a dating app and that person could be the furthest thing from Christ, but they just wanted a Christian person because they think that a Christian person would either make a really good spouse, or make a really good spouse, or they just wanted a friend with benefits, or they're just on a whole bunch of dating apps because they're just because whatever hits is wherever they're gonna go. So yeah, first of all, I really don't believe any Christian should be on Tinder or Bumble or any of those dating that are non-Christian. And then for dating apps like Christian Mingle and such, I don't know the other ones. I think Plenty of Fish is a Christian dating site, but somebody will have to fact check me on that. But if you're on one of those dating sites, then you're really gonna have to ask for discernment, right? Because you can be talking to a person thinking that, oh, it's a Christian dating site, this person has to be close to God. No, just because you signed up for Christian account doesn't mean that your life is anywhere close.
Read the fine print. The fine print says something else.
Of course, you have to be very careful, and I love what Kevin said. Like, you need to be, especially for women, like you need to definitely find as quickly as possible an opportunity to see this person real life. Not real life. Sorry, that's the wrong word. See if this person really is real.
Face to face.
Yeah, face to face, whether it's through the phone, whether it's through FaceTime. We have so many assets, like even WhatsApp, even Facebook Messenger. Like if you don't even want to make it personal and you don't want that person to have your phone number, a Facebook Messenger, you can do Facebook Messenger and you can literally just see that person face to face to see if they're real, right? And then even on that first date, be wary. Like, don't be like, well, I'm going to go on this date, but let somebody else know that you're going to go on this specific date. Like, don't not tell nobody where you're not going to be, who you're meeting with, because these are things that are going to be very important, specifically when anybody's dating. We have to be very vigilant, because not everybody who says that they're Christian is truly Christian. You know, there's a lot of wolves in sheep clothing. Yes. But there's risk in everything. I really do think that, as you guys said, I grew up, and I'm the youngest out of the two of you guys. I grew up in a time period where I still remember dial-up and no technology and no internet and Yahoo and the rise of Google. I grew up during that time period. So I also understand that there was a big focus on having communication skills. Like that was something that was valued. as I've grown up and now
No,
noticed, like especially the younger
definitely.
generations, their communication skills are not the same anymore because it's not something they necessarily had to work on. Where it's like, oh, go if you find this person like interesting, go up and specifically talk to her. That was something that you had to do because you had no choice, right? You had no choice but to talk to that person right in front of your face if you were very interested in speaking to her. But I think the generation that we have now, they
That's
haven't worked on those
undoing
skills
it. So
necessarily, and they honestly they're using something that's there for them, just like you said, Kevin, with the idea of Facebook, where like many pastors back in the day would say Facebook was the
the
devil, right?
devil,
And
straight
the
up.
other day, those same pastors were using Facebook Live to do their messages or YouTube to do their
Yep.
messages. So we saw how technology was being used to make sure that people got saved or people kept getting fed. And at the end of the day, we've seen too many people who've met on social media and on Christian dating sites in this day and age to be like, well, you can't go through this stream. But like you guys saying, I wouldn't make that my only stream of being open and responsive, being open. Like, this has to work. This Christian dating site has to work. This will get me my husband. Da 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 da. This will get me my wife, because then you're going in, as Emmanuel said, very thirsty, and it's not going to work out. What I would say is that this should be an avenue which you could try to explore to see if you could find somebody else specifically that maybe not going to your same church, so you guys don't all have to fight for the same one female, which happened all the time growing up as a Christian.
But let me add something real quick. Because I did a little bit of research and I asked a few people, right? So um most of these dating sites are the same in terms of when you're actually doing research for something, whatever the situation may be, it categorizes your certain likes and it categorizes the things that you're actually viewing, right? So what happens on some of these dating sites is the same thing. So it can categorize what your interests are about who it is that you're clicking and liking and etc. Right? So where you're talking about discernment is huge when you're talking about dating app as well, because eventually it can in some instances trigger any lust that you have inside you, because now you're just looking at specific people for the physical and for certain aspects of, oh, okay, I like this in this person, I like that in that person, and now you're just looking more at the physical, and the system itself is going to mold itself to what it is that you like. So now it has become such a platform for individualism, where it's about me and it's about my want, and then you kind of get kind of lost a little bit, because at the end of the day, when we speak about partners and when we speak about husband and wife, and that should be the ultimate goal in dating, you are um, the interest should really be God first. That should be the interest. That should be what connects you to people, is the Lord. If you want a good, solid Christian home, that should be it, number one. So your interest, and y'all could tell me this 100%. Your interest when you get married is, it's not about you. Okay, it's yes, you have to make your significant other happy. Yes, you have to bless your significant other. But when Christ speaks about husband and wife, what does he say? Right? He says, "Love your wife as it loves the Lord." And then the same way, the wife should respect the husband, should serve the husband, should love the husband in the same way. You know what I mean? So there has to be a mutual understanding of, sometimes you have to put the other person first. Sometimes it's about that other person. Sometimes it's about lifting that person up. And it's very hard to start drawing those characteristics when, like I said, the system is necessarily facilitating what it is that you want. And it may be what you want, but it not be what the Lord wants for you. And you
Well,
can
yeah,
get lost in there. And
like,
that could be a little bit difficult and it could be tricky for you, which is why
yeah.
you need some of that discernment to say, God, you know what I mean? How much trust am I putting into this app or this situation? And how much am I going to invest in this situation as well? Because ultimately it might lead you somewhere where you don't want to go and set
Yeah.
you back.
Right, 100%. What I was gonna say is, I mean, there is definitely a level of physical attraction that's gonna happen. Whatever. I don't think any person, especially as a man, is not physically attracted to his wife. I think that if I think one time I went to marital counseling, and the first thing the pastor asked me is, "Are you physically attracted to your wife?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Good, because if you wasn't, we're gonna have a problem here." And it's the truth. There has to be a level of attraction there. I know generally for females, it doesn't always have to be a physical attraction. I know there's a lot of females who tend to have an emotional attraction first. They build that first, or they fall in love with a person's mind. I oftentimes, if I'm speaking for my brothers, I say 99 out of 100 times, or 95 if we want to be generous. There's a physical attraction first there. So I think the one thing different though that these apps do, and what you're saying, is that they mold they kind of push an algorithm where the type that you seem to continuously swipe for, they're gonna push that person necessarily, even if that person may not necessarily be be a compatible person for you. So that's why I think that it's very important for anybody, even whatever you do in when you're dating, because all of us, we've all dated, we've all had to kiss our frogs or whatever, to use a lot of discernment, right? And it doesn't. That's why I said it doesn't really matter if it's through a Christian app, if it's through Facebook, if it's through Instagram, if it's you found that person physically. What matters is you should be dating that person as if, like, if you talk to that person, I always believe you should be dating that one person or talking to that one person. And I think what these apps do is they let you talk to multiple people, right? Like you can be talking to 4 or 5 different people. So if you're a person that's saying, yeah, I want to use this app because I don't have enough time to find a person to really go out there and put myself out there, okay, that's fine. But understand that you can't be sitting using the app as an excuse to talk to 4 or 5 different people because you don't know who's going to work out. At the end of the day, when we're dating, you're dating to find the person that you're going to marry. And I had to shift that mindset around the age of 20, around the age of 22. Around the age of 22, I shifted my entire mindset because it was like, okay, I can talk to multiple people, but if I'm doing it that way, am I really honoring God in the way that I'm trying to go about finding a person? So what I would do is, I learned this from this, actually, I learned this story from a Christian bodybuilder. I forgot his name, but I used to be very big into bodybuilding back in the day. I used to follow this guy who was a Christian bodybuilder. And one thing that he told me, the one thing that he put on Instagram, this is when I used to like be on Instagram very actively, was that he knew within 3 dates if this person was worth pursuing. And that always stuck to me because a lot of times we keep people around saying, I don't know this, I don't know that. But really, I know this sounds cliche, but when you know you found a person that you are super compatible with, that fits that checks off all the boxes, right? So you know within the first 2-3 dates whether this is something that should be worth pursuing or not pursuing. I would say you could kind of know it after the first date. And that's kind of something that I did, where I would go, when I shifted my mindset, I was only talking to one female. But if we're having a conversation, I would, and I saw that the conversation was not going a specific way that I would want. I was like, all right, I'm dubbing this. I'm ending this. Because it was like, I'm not going to waste my time, and I don't want to waste your time in doing this. And I think that a lot of young people, because they're scared of being hurt by somebody else, is they have multiple options. Because that's kind of what the world teaches us, to like have multiple options. So like, if this didn't pan out, well, I can fall back on plan B. I don't think that that's something that we should do. I do think that dating apps kind of like promulgate or like encourage that. But I think that that's why you have to, if you decide to use that route, I'm not telling you that it's wrong. I'm telling you to you have to have discernment, and you have to have self-control, and you have to be honest, because a lot of people, and you have to be aware that a lot of people they're obviously going to put their best foot forward, and they may not necessarily tell you the truth just because they say it's a Christian, because they say they're Christian.
Yeah, something that I want to say real quick is, and I asked both of you guys this question really, but I will try to put it this way. You know how sometimes people on social media, Twitter or YouTube or Facebook or whatever, they have trigger fingers. Like they think that, I mean, they can do anything. Like it's almost like they have a multiple personality once they get on social media and they feel like they're brave enough to say or do or whatever. So on dating apps, my question is that, you know, they're gonna necessarily do that. They're gonna portray maybe somebody that they're not, maybe because they don't necessarily have to see somebody face to face. Like you have that level of, I could basically come off this way because I know that, I could necessarily play that part. So to me, I think the traditional way sometimes is better because you kind of have to put yourself out there. I mean, the person is gonna see you for who you are, and you're gonna have a deeper understanding right from the get. So, would you guys agree with that? That would be a little bit more evident and clear to do as opposed to going straight into a dating app and I mean portraying something that maybe is not. Like you should go and be intentional.
I 100% agree, and I'm gonna let Emmanuel speak right now because I spoke a lot. And thank you for pointing out that you guys saw my shorts. I already pulled it up, but I I think that I 100% agree with you that you're gonna obviously the person that you meet in a physical will always be better than a person you might meet virtually. I think that there are certain situations where I could see somebody using a dating app. Most notably, if a person is really doesn't have the time, the amount of time, to really put themselves out there. Because I remember being a Christian man, a Christian man. I'm single, obviously, while I was doing it, but it's a lot of effort. Like you got to go to different events. Like if everybody at your church is in a relationship, and you have to go put yourself out there in these events. You got to go to different events. My friend would invite me to go to different events, and I would like I don't really want to go because I'm kind of antisocial in that regard. So there's a lot of like social anxiety that a lot of people have. So I don't go against anybody that uses a Christian dating app. I just think that you have to be the same way you got to be careful with somebody that could be lying to you physically, but even though it's much easier to discern there. The same way you got to be careful when you're using a Christian dating app, or even more so because that person could really pretend to be whoever they want to be.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I believe that obviously with good intentions and not literally having that in the forefront is literally putting yourself out there. You know what I'm saying? Just you know what it is, guys and Kevin. I think people over spiritualize things too much. Like they meet a girl or vice versa, and it's like they over spiritualize everything. Like just be normal. Invite them out for a coffee, whatever. Like you don't have to over spiritualize that moment that you're hanging out with her. You know what I'm saying? Even if you do like or you like each other, just be normal. Don't be weird. Don't be like, oh, the Holy Spirit is revealing something to me. Like, no, just shut up and just have a good time and see where the Lord, leads you. Because it does happen a lot. Unfortunately, they want to over spiritualize things. It's just a hangout. And I do want to bring up the word dating and courtship for a second. So for those more nobody knows in this chat, I work for a nonprofit, and talking about dating, I do this for a living. So where I work at, we talk about the importance of having making healthy choices and decisions and avoiding risky behaviors. And I do this with the middle school and high schools all over South Florida, and holistically, whether it's money, friendship, with your parents, romantic, and we do talk a lot about friendship, dating, and love. And it's a perfect topic because I'm with middle school and high school, and they're all talking about that, and they're always dating. But the real definition of dating simply is just getting to know yourself and others. It's that simple. But we don't see it like that because that's how the world portrays it as dating. Oh, you're kissing somebody, you're hooking up, friends with benefits, having sex, holding hands, you're in a relationship. No, dating doesn't mean you're in a relationship. It can lead you to a relationship, but you can go on a date with somebody that you don't necessarily like romantically. It's just a hangout. It's literally considered the word a date. But the thing again, the world portrays it as something else. So we automatically think, oh, dating is not of God, or we to court instead of dating. I'm like, they pretty much practically the same thing as long as you're doing it the right way. Because you can date, you can court with the mindset of, I want to get to know this person more, and hopefully there's a potential future to marry him or marry her. Simple as that. You know what I'm saying? But again, we just gotta be normal. Don't over spiritualize stuff when we have a date with somebody.
Yeah, no, oh, bro, that's yeah. Go ahead, Raj. Go ahead, Raj.
You're slightly staticky. That's the only thing I was gonna say. I'm gonna let Kevin speak now, but you're slightly staticky.
Yeah, bro, you're like 100% on the be normal. Like people just go overboard, man. It's the honest truth, bro. People go overboard, and we need to calm down. Like, look, I always tell people, if you choose the wrong one when you're getting married, it will set you back. Period. Period. Like it's one of the most detrimental decisions that you have to make in your life. Other than getting to know God and repenting, etc. The other detrimental decision you have to make is who you're going to walk this life with. Okay, so but the person that you're going to date might not be the person that you're going to walk the rest of your life with. So you cannot look at that person from the first date or from the first thing or and put so much pressure on that person or the situation and say this person has to be it. You get me? Like we cannot let just time or desperation or whatever your situation may be so detrimental. It's like, oh my God, like this has to happen or whatever. Like, no, in a relationship, and y'all can speak as well on this, your spouse has to be your best friend. Your husband has to be your best friend. So it starts with friendship. Like the attraction is going to be there, right? Physically. But at the end of the day, what really draws you near to that partner is your level of understanding, trust, conversation, communication, because that's what's going to hold on for all the years to come. You know what I mean? So it's really building a friendship first. It's really getting to know somebody. And that's exactly what you were touching on with dating. It's like, you really got to get to know someone. You know what I mean? Like become friends. Who knows if even just getting to know that person might be the doorway for the person you're actually going to marry. You know what I mean? And you could just be in a new circle. Like sometimes just that sense of loneliness, you can meet a new circle, new group of people, new friends. You know what I mean? Like I know, Raj, you were talking about before, like some people are antisocial, right? And it's understandable. Like, you know, we all have just that level of insecurity sometimes. It's like, well, should I really open myself up? How are they really going to receive me? How am I going to feel in the room? Like, are they going to get my jokes? Are they going to get my personality? Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think in every relationship, you do have to step out of your boundaries. You do have to step out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean? And I don't know necessarily if that's going to happen every single time you get an interaction on the dating app, because and that's where you can kind of get lost, you know what I mean? Because you do have to be intentional sometimes. So let's just say use a dating app, in my opinion, and you go and you say, but I'm going to meet this person and I'm going to get to know this person. I'm going to go beyond the app. You get what I'm saying? Like the app is going to be just an opportunity for me to meet someone new. Okay, because that at least will push you to be a little bit more intentional. Like we're all busy. And if you're not busy, then you really need to ask the Lord to, what are you doing wrong that you're not busy? You know what I mean? Because God calls busy people. You know what I mean? That's the honest truth. So if you're not busy, it's like, okay, but if you are busy for the right reasons, which means that you're serving the Lord and you're being occupied and making sure that He's first in your life for certain aspects, or all your aspects, excuse me, eventually doors will open up. And I think that people will be like, oh, I want you to meet my friend. I want you to meet this person. And who knows there in those given interactions, if those are the things that God's opening the doorway for you. but you still have to get out of your comfort zone and out of your boundaries to be like, hey, how you doing? You want to go grab a cup of coffee? You want to go out and eat? Oh, let's go check out this movie, etc. Like, you have to find ways in order for you not to close yourself in and not just rely on dating apps is what I believe. Not just rely on those things to say, oh, you know what, it's more comfortable for me, or it's easier for me. Like, no, you have to push yourself sometimes for a greater aspect of just life and relationships and just communication with different people. And it's gonna involve work. Every relationship in life involves work. Every relationship in life, whether it be your friends, family, loved ones, they involve work. Like, there's no just easygoing relationship in life. You really have to build that relationship, build that trust and level of communication. So in a lot of terms, you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
like I feel like you were gonna say something.
I like what you said when you were talking about specifically using it as a form of starting a conversation, and that's what I think we're trying to say. Like, I don't the necessarily how the relationship started shouldn't be over spiritualized. So that's, and I think that's where the crux of our conversation is, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Is people over spiritualize how that relationship started. Like, people are like, well, it was a high. It had to be, well, God shone a light on this person specifically, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and we were forced to be in this situation together. But really, it's a level of putting yourself out there. So what I'm trying to say is, for some people, putting themselves out there is literally opening up a dating profile. And if that's the situation that you're in, okay, but don't just leave it at, well, I opened it and now what do I do? It's, well, if you match with somebody and you guys have a conversation, a couple conversations, go on a specific date with this person. Use it as a starting point. And the reason why I think a lot of people over spiritualize their starting points is because it's a question that you get asked all the time. I hate that question. I really hate the question, how did you guys meet? I hate the question because it puts pressure, and then people are suddenly become competitive about how you met. And you suddenly be like, well, my best friend, like, wedding, like, it's like, who cares how we met? Like, why don't you talk to us about where we are right now? I'd be more comfortable talking to you about, like, the journey me and Dana went through, how we got to the point that we're at. But we are so obsessed with how it started that, and we lose sight that we're supposed to do this until the end. And that's why a lot of people lose sight of it, because they think that, well, this person may be interesting, or this person may be thing, but I can only see him in this specific light. But they'll meet somebody else and they'll have a weird situation, and then they'll come up to you, be like, well, it had to be God because this is how it happened. And who else would it could have been but God? So I think that's the problem that we put ourselves in. We focus too much on how things start when it should just be like, hey, I'm kind of find you. I kind of think you're cute. Do you want to go get a coffee? Do you want to go get a coffee sometime? And seeing if you guys are compatible. Now, the only reason why I think people shy away from the word dating, because oftentimes people associate dating with serial dating, and they associate courtship with, like, just talking to one person. Regardless, like you said it yourself, you said it, Emmanuel, dating is courtship. The difference is that I don't think Christians should be dating multiple people. Like, you shouldn't be dating a different person each day of the week. Like,
Yeah.
one at a time. Like, so, like, if you're focusing on Cassandra, I don't know who Cassandra is, and if I see if there's a Cassandra, I don't know any Cassandras. If you're focusing on Cassandra, focus on Cassandra. Cassandra,
They're gonna be like, who Cassandra? I want to know who Cassandra is. Why are you talking about
there really
Cassandra?
is no Cassandra. I've never met a Cassandra before in my life, but I just picked the name out the hat. But that's really what it is, and that's really what it comes to. And let's not focus on
Let
the
me
start.
let me ask you a question real fast. Would y'all be opposed to, like I said before, because generally, relationships about friendship, really. I mean, that's what I would push it more to, is getting to know somebody, having a level of friendship. Like, do you connect? Do you click? So, would you be opposed to, like, encouraging do a gathering, it's a social gathering, or is it like an event? Like, to start off, to kind of ease away the pressures of, man, it's a date and thing. Like, would you push more social gathering? Would you like, and what I mean by social gathering, like if there's a barbecue, a family barbecue or something like that, or whatever, where they're just coming in as a friend, like just somebody you know, or is like, or you're going to an event, you're going to a Christian concert, or you're going to a thing, you get what I'm saying? Like, would you push those things as
Yeah,
like the
and
first and second time meeting?
I push those things with my youth group. Like I think that you have to have a healthy mix of both. I think a couple of nights. Well, last month we went to a Christian concert in New Jersey, which was wild. It was Barack, Emmanuel. They were in New Jersey, just chilling in New Jersey. Came out to record the album, and we had a Christian event. We went there. That was a lot of fun that night. But at the same time, the month before that, we just had a barbecue, and I said a 5 or 10 minute word, and we just spend the time in fellowship. Both of those things are necessary to grow the body, right? Both of those things are great opportunities, and they're definitely they're definitely needed. My old church used to have a park day every year. Every year we had one park day, and it was great. It was something. It was something for the church, or even my old church used to have youth retreats, and those youth retreats were 100% a mixture of fun, but a mixture of time with the Lord. Because we would have time with the Lord, but we would have these free time moments where we would be able to hang out, be able to really fellowship, be able to really enjoy it. Both of them are necessary. I mean, if you're gonna work with somebody, especially for the kingdom, you got to know somebody. There's a reason why businesses push these company retreats and all that stuff. They push it because they want you to know the person you're working with. So in the kingdom, I think sometimes what happens is there's some churches go full blown overboard and they just do fellowship events all the time. Only fellowship events. There's never an event that is meant to like further edification of the Bible of the body, or not the body of the spirit. And then there's other churches that just push only edification events and there's never an opportunity for people to really get to know who each other are. And it has to be a healthy mix that you're pushing there between fellowship and obviously growth and edification, especially for people who are very young, not young, but like young adults, which is the people that I lead. Like these young adults are still trying to figure themselves out. One thing that I'm trying to push into 2022 is to try to get my young adults to meet other groups, to specifically hang out with specific other groups in New York, because I think it's going to be good for them. And that's kind of what my mindset is going into. So, okay, so how can we push them into like meeting other people, seeing other people of the faith? I don't know. If you find somebody, if you're interested, if you find yourself compatible with somebody, well, that's awesome. That's cool. Because again, in small churches, the truth of the matter is, the prettiest person, the prettiest girl is probably already locked up. We're going to be honest. I mean, I grew up in small churches my whole life, so I know exactly. I've grown up with it being like that, where you've been single, and it's because there's nobody literally there like that is single. Everybody's pretty much dating her in some specific way.
So again, right, just to be clear, right? So you would then approve then a blend, public and private interaction, like between the person. So if you're meeting a person one time, you want to take them to a church event, or you want to take them to a concert, or you want to take a thing, as opposed to just one time, coffee and bring that stress level up, you know what I mean? And that, just in case, Manny, are you on the same boat? Like, would you encourage somebody that blend? Like, if they are going to try, listen, do it this way, do it that way, so they don't have that stress. Yes?
Yeah. I would definitely go that route. I would definitely go that route, but I will also speak about the other risky possible scenarios, only because somebody's gonna wind up asking about that, or if they don't, somebody's thinking about it. So I always want to have in mind, speak to the minority like if they're the majority. Because if I'm with a group of people and I'm only speaking about what you're saying, the social gathering, but I also got to remember, like, okay, there's people probably here that's thinking, okay, what about dating apps? They might ask, they may not. So I'm going to speak into that as well. in case, you know what I'm saying? Because I want to make sure we're talking about all the different avenues, but I will push it more for the whole physical, social gathering, events, stuff like that. Like, for example, in 2 weeks, there's an event that's happening between 6 different churches, and it's a singles event. It's actually for singles and like young married couples in their 20s and 30s. And I'm going. I just told my wife, let's just buy shirts that said we're married. Anybody tries us. But you know what I'm saying? That's a perfect event to go to for though. And it's not necessarily, there's not gonna be like a speech or a sermon on single. It's just people coming together, and we're gonna have fun and just eat and have games, and make friends. You know what I'm saying? Simple as that.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
churches should push that more. Like, and I think that's just an old school mentality. That you will find your wife in this specific church, or you'll find your husband in this specific church. It's very old school mentality, and I think we should push more of what you said. Right? These are like these opportunities for really like single people to like really have an opportunity to meet. Because what I notice and what I know is that for a person that's very busy in church, they don't have that many opportunities to like kind of like, like not, what in the words, not let loose, but have an opportunity to really talk to somebody else and to get to know somebody else, because they're doing so many different things. So I think churches really should really work on opening up those avenues, opening up those doors. And again, my goal and that's funny because I'm trying to like look for different young adult groups that in New York City and Queens that would like want to like want to hang out or want to like do certain specific things, because I think that it's not, I think that it also helps just grow the church overall, right? Because sometimes you feel like, I don't know if you guys ever had this mentality that, well, my church is the only church that's going to heaven, uh and everybody else's churches, they're doing something wrong. And the truth of the matter is that I think a lot of people may have that mentality because the only church
Yeah.
that they go to is their church. And
Yeah.
what we need to do is we need to allow people to be like, well, hey, like even I come from a Spanish church. Like I've done Spanish churches my whole life, right? And what I noticed, especially specifically about the Spanish church doesn't do well with mixing with other churches. They do a horrible job of mixing with other churches.
Horrible. You're
And, and what
100%.
happens is a lot of times is that when they'll see a different church, whether it be a black church or a white church, they're like not confrontational, but they're more like resistant to like even having conversations or even opening up and just seeing and like even seeing even how they may differ. When and the truth of the matter is, it's not like it's gonna only be Hispanics in the heaven, where it's like, well, this is the Dominican side of heaven, is the Guatemalan side of heaven. Like, go to your specific sides, but really, there's not gonna be no black church, no white church, no Hispanic church. It's gonna be the church. So we need to be
Right.
able to open up ourselves to different types of worship, different types of churches. I went to a friend's church when I went to Cape Cod, which I love Cape Cod. I dislike Massachusetts for all their sports teams. I could never move there, but I love Cape Cod. Very beautiful place. And then I went to my brother's church, and it was a white church, and I had a blast. It was great. It was different from how I usually worship, but I enjoyed it. And I think that's what we need to get more into, to like
Right.
opening ourselves up to different people.
But can I just say, Rise, like I think in anything in life, when you're enclosed in, and you are so tight with your circle, you're never gonna allow new people to come into your life and new scenarios to happen. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just fears that we have. You know what I mean? That it's like, I don't know how I'm gonna be received by this person, or I don't know if I want to get or have these situations or have new problems. Like, so we enclose ourselves, and the church does that a lot. The church encloses itself a lot, and I think that that's one of the reasons why we have these situations with the dating sites, because we don't allow ourselves to be open. We don't allow ourselves to understand that we're a body. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be any difference in ethnicity or race or culture, etc. We should embrace everything, but we don't. We want to enclose ourselves And because of that, we have segregated ourselves in a lot of aspects, and we make it more difficult for ourselves to meet new people. What's the slogan that people use is no new friends, right? Nobody wants new friends. Everybody's the same friends and thing. Like, it's great to have long time friends, and I have long time friends, but I'm one of those people who loves meeting people. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. I love learning about different cultures, different people, like, people's upbringings. You know what I mean, and understand why they're here, why we're under the same faith. Their testimonies. So if you have an issue sometimes, like, we all love God, and I think that should be the one thing that connects us. So if you have an issue opening up with people, it's like, why? You know what I mean? Because if this person loves Jesus and I love Jesus, we should have the most important thing in life in common. And that should give us an opportunity and a space where we could just be ourselves and we can open up and just have a conversation. You know what I mean? And enjoy just the different aspects of what our faith is. Because as you said, you went to Cape Cod and their worship was different. You know what I mean? But I mean, their worship is different, but they're not different. You know what I mean? Where you were probably different to them. They were probably like, "What's this guy doing here?" You know what I mean? But they were welcoming, I'm sure. You know what I mean? And they put themselves out there to make sure that, hey, we're here for all people. And when, like you said, the Spanish church is one of those where it's very enclosed, and we're always going to have this difficulty if we don't find ways and avenues to be open and to be receiving, and to give other people an opportunity to meet each other. We should be the platform. The church should be the platform where we give people the opportunity to meet each other, where we get that opportunity for people to connect, because it's like, wow, we have more in common than what I actually thought, and give people an opportunity to speak and voice their opinions, etc. So, yeah, just wanted to get that out there.
Yeah,
I want
last thing I
to.
want to say is, and I'll just say this and let Emmanuel speak, is I'm not a big Martin Luther King fan, but Martin Luther King Jr. fan. But his quote always struck with me, where he said that the most segregated time in America is 12 o'clock on a Sunday morning, where, and it's true. Like a lot of times, even now, and that was a quote said in 1960, whatever. Even now, what we do is we try to go to our churches, whether it's the Spanish church, the black church, the white church, and we categorize our churches by different cultures, by different things, and it's like, what? Like, we all supposed to be following the same Bible. Yeah, we have segregated ourselves to such a point, and it shouldn't be that way. Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah. I do want to mention that for those, especially in here, if anybody is single and do desire to be married and whatnot, let's follow what the Apostle Paul said. I couldn't find it in the Bible, but I remember pretty much what he was talking about. He's pretty much talking about to the singles, like, if you are single, listen, do whatever you can to devote all your time or whatever, as much as you can, to the Lord. Really, we should be doing that anyways. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get married, it's a whole different ballgame. And out of us three, Kevin has been married longer than us. I've been married 3 years in December. Kevin has 11 years, and Rise, 7 years, my bad. And Rise,
12 years.
No, it's my bad, 12 years. And Rise,
I actually got married 3 years in August
Okay.
2018.
Got it. So we all been married. I'm the only one that don't have kids yet, but it's a whole different ballgame. Like, the way I used to seek the Lord and read tons of books and staying up late till like 3 a.m, researching, Googling as a single, I can't do that anymore as a married person. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I still read or whatever. I don't do that as much, only for other personal reasons that I have priorities in place right now. But when you're married, Paul says that your now dedication is to your wife. You know what I'm saying? Not that you neglect your relationship with God, but you having a really a good relationship with your wife reflect your relationship with the Lord as well. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're treating your wife bad, then that's like a slap in the face of God. So you're single, devote yourself to the word and evangelize, do whatever you need to do for God. But when you're married, and as a man specifically, your devotion is to the wife. And then when the kid comes, that's even more work. So don't think that, oh, I want to get married. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. But it could be ugly sometimes, you know? It could be ugly. It's because God, you know, put it this way. Our wives or our husbands are our mirrors. You know what I'm saying? Our sins are exposed the most when you're in a relationship with somebody. And it's ugly. But God prunes that. You know what I'm saying? And like he does with the with gold, you know, he refines the gold, he refines your life through the sanctification in your marriage. But it's not easy both ways. So I just want to let that out because there's a lot of people that really don't know what it is when they get married until they're in it.
I want us to switch topics to the topic of soulmates. I know Chico Mafia had a pretty crazy question. Maybe we hit it at the end if we finish this quickly. But what do you guys believe about the topic of soulmates? I've had a pretty strong opinion, and I think a consistent opinion throughout the years. Even though I slightly altered it in the last couple of weeks. Even though it's the same opinion, I just slightly altered it. And you guys see what my alteration is, what I was thinking about it. But does anybody want to start off with what do they think? Do we have soulmates? Is that person that you with the specific person that God put there, and that's the only person for you?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right.
I think.
Well, hold on. Before
you
you
wanna
say
go
something,
ahead?
answer me this. Would you say a soulmate is biblical? That's really the gist.
That's
Would you say a soulmate is biblical?
So I would say no. But then again, I want to ask what people mean by soulmate. Because the way I look at soulmate,
we're just so alike. It's so crazy.
the way I view soulmate is more of like the one. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe. Obviously, my wife is my wife. She's the one that I'm with and that God has placed in my life. Now, is she the only one in my life? I don't know that. And what I mean by that is that she could die 15 years from now and I could remarry. So did I really marry the wrong one and marry the right one? You know what I'm saying? So I really don't believe there's such thing as a soulmate or as the one. I mean, there's a few pastors that I met that were married for 20 years. And then like in their 50s or 60s, they got remarried because their wife passed away. So what? Did he miss the real one in the first time? No. So I really don't think there is such a thing as a soulmate, biblically speaking. That's all I'll say for now.
Kevin.
Right, go ahead. I want to hear your opinion.
My opinion is very similar to Manny's in the sense that I always thought
I defer right now to hear Rise's side as well.
That the opinion of soulmates is like, here's what I say. So I don't believe that there is soulmates the way that the world defines soulmates, that this is a specific person you have to be in. I think that God gives people different people that can work out, that you can work out with. The reason why I believe it's that way is because the key to any relationship really working out is putting God first. Almost any relationship, as long as God is first, is in it, will work out. Now, to what infinity would it work out? Would it be an incredible relationship? Would it be a relationship where you guys disagree a lot? Is it a relationship where you have to grow to love to each other? Regardless of the fact, if God's first in that relationship will, for the most part, work out, because that's the one foundation point that you definitely need. Now, the reason why I don't believe in soulmates is I think that it becomes a slippery slope when the way the world defines it. So let's say my soulmate was a specific person and I didn't end up marrying that specific person. Not only did I miss out in my soulmate, you could say that she missed out in her soulmate because I failed to marry her. So now we're in a situation where we both marry different people who they themselves are supposed to be soulmates for other people. and then it continues going down the chain of command. So it really only takes one person to really not find the right person to actually destroy the whole concept of soulmates, to me, in my eyes. What I believe what God gives us is different, is people who really, really, really fit, and they could become along a person that really, really fit, and that's an opportunity. Especially if you're young enough, like let's say you're in your 20s and you missed out on that person because you were not emotionally ready, you were not mentally ready, you were not, most important, spiritually ready. You can become more prepared, which is what we call all people, especially my brothers, to get prepared, to be ready enough that when there's another person that's placed in front of you, you won't drop the ball in that situation. So I personally believe that God gives that there's multiple people that can really work out for you. And the reason why I believe that is I think that as long as God is first, as long as you guys as long as you guys have a good friendship, as long as you guys are attracted to each other, that relationship will work out. That's my personal belief. Now, what the part what I changed in a little bit was what I was when I say that I think that people who are married are soulmates. I think that once you marry that person is now your soulmate, or can become, or you're, and it's your responsibility to make sure that you improve on that relationship. So you can be in a relationship with some, and the reason why is obviously because God doesn't call us to get divorced. So God calls us to be with that person for life. So that person, you have bonded your life with that person. So under that definition, the person that you are married to is your soulmate, but there are multiple people that could be your soulmate. It's not just one specific person. And that obviously depends on, does that person understand you? Does they understand your sense of humor? Is that person equally yoked with you with God? Are you physically attracted to that person? All these things are going to come down to play in whether you choose to do your life with that person.
Okay. I don't believe in soulmates. The reason why is, in biblical terms, there's not even an example where we can be like, obviously it's not in the Bible, but there's not an example where we could be like, yes, this is a specific soulmate. So that's why I can't go. I think the terminology is something that we incorporated. Okay. As Manny said, I definitely see his viewpoint. And if your spouse dies, your husband dies, and you end up getting remarried, and for some, they might love the next husband or wife more than the first. I mean, does that make them, you know what I mean? Any, like, does the first soulmate get null and void now? Like, so I like, so I think it's just something that we have incorporated to, and something we cling on to. Now, in a marriage, the person that keeps a marriage centered, going forward, strong, etc., is Jesus. He is the most important part of the relationship, most important part of the marriage. If Jesus is not in the equation, the marriage could fall apart any minute of the day, any time, period. So Jesus is what necessarily connects both souls. So he is at the center of each person, the man and the woman. Okay. If he's not in the equation, to me, there is absolutely no way that these people, now they could be compatible, now they thingy, but people, when they look at soulmate, they look at somebody who completes someone, right? Would you guys say that that definition is correct? A soulmate, that person completes me, so that person is my soulmate. The only person that should complete us is Jesus.
Amen.
God is the only person that should complete us. So if at that point you want to call your partner a significant other soulmate, you're giving too much emphasis and power to that other person. And I think the emphasis and power should be directed towards God. So God, to me, is the most important strand in that combination. Okay. So that's why sometimes I think we kind of get lost in so much the emphasis on soulmate. And
But
I think that the intimacy level is where the soulmate kind of comes into tact, right? There's where I think that the connection necessarily happens. So, um, so So putting all those things together, just to kind of make it clear, I think that it's something that we sometimes have added way too much basis to, and we can get overhyped with the whole soulmate conversation and everything else. Yes, I think that God is the person that connects two people together. He is the orchestrator of the love life that we have with our significant other. And because of that, he's the one that necessarily connects two people together. I don't know if it has to be 100% compatible, but if that's the person that God chose for you, your core conviction and the Holy Spirit will let you know, and that's how necessarily everything is put together.
That's why I say that I think that there's various people that can fit that description that's compatible for you. That's why, and I like what you said. I think that our society has shoved it down our throats that there is a person that is the one for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily true. And we see that with like stuff from Disney. Like if you think about Cinderella, right? How is Cinderella? And I always thought about this. How is Cinderella the only person with that shoe size in the entire city? That makes no. You think about that for 2 seconds, it makes no sense whatsoever. You telling me that I'm the only person in New York City with a size 12 shoe? Like I don't know what size shoe she has.
Nobody else. Nobody got
Nobody
your
else.
crusty toes. Nothing. Son. That shit must fit only you, kid.
It makes no sense, but people eat it up. People love the idea because the idea is basically that Cinderella was meant for Prince Charming, right? And it's problematic because there's been a lot of Christian people, Christian females, who've been hurt because they thought a man was their soulmate, but that man wasn't loving them like Christ loved the church. But they will swear they will stay in a relationship longer than they should have because they swear that the person was their soulmate. And that's the sad part, that it holds you captive because you're like, no, this has to be the person that God's telling me to be with. This person, like all the suffering, all this pain that I'm going through, it doesn't matter because we'll make it through somehow. And it's like,
you know how many suicides there's been. You know how many states of depression there's been. You know how many. You know what I mean? Persons have been damaged emotionally, physically, spiritually because they felt that this person was their soulmate and they're not with them anymore, or the relationship didn't make it, et cetera, et cetera. And they clinged on so much to this concept that they've lost themselves in the whole picture. And in a lot of ways, you can lose your trust in God if you're putting more emphasis on the soulmate. And you know what I mean? This is the person that God gave me, et cetera. Like there's been occasions we were talking about before, right? Somebody died. Let's just say, you know, Christians go through divorces as well. So you go through a divorce with your soulmate, right? And now you think that your life is shattered. It's like, you know what? I'm not gonna find the right one. Like that was it. I have to think, whatever. But the other person cheated on you.
Yeah.
The other person was not faithful. You know what I mean? And now you're stuck in this conundrum because it's like, okay, well, that's the soulmate. That's the person that God chose for me, and maybe I messed up and everything else. And it's just way too much emphasis just on this concept and this dream that this is the one only match. And it's like, wait a minute, God has a perfect plan, and He has declared that in His Word for each and every one of us. And God doesn't make mistakes.
That's why I tell people to check prophecies, because I've met so many brothers and sisters who told me that God told them that they're meant to be together and they never work out. Like, you got to really check, because I've had people who've come up to me, told me privately, well, God told me this about this person. And they're looking for signs that aren't there, or somebody tells them a false prophecy about their thing, because we know that false prophecies are galore, especially when it comes to church. A lot of people, they try to force something there or say something there that they didn't get any direction from God to say, but it was just them in their mind speaking to themselves. And that's not me saying that prophecies don't happen today. I do believe that people prophesy today. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of people that false prophesize, and they make false prophecies and they make false claims. And then the person like, well, this pastor or this preacher told me, and then they get stuck in that relationship for years because that's what the pastor told them, and they're not looking at the other signs. Well, this person might have changed. This person's not treating me the same way that they've treated me before. Well, this person, there's other red flags that are showing up while I'm dating this person that I'm overlooking because this is what is the word that I got. So it's sad because it goes back to this idea that there's specific soul mates. And I think and that's why I wanted to do this live, because I think that there's a lot of people who are in bad relationships because they think that person's a soulmate. And I think there's a lot of people who are waiting on to their Prince Charming because they're Disney fanatics and whatever. And they think that there's that one specific person for them. And they're not putting any effort into actually like looking for that person or for looking for a person that may be compatible to them. And I think the church is problematic in that. That's why I tell people that in the Christian walk, this is a journey. This is something where life, like I was telling my wife, and we were speaking about it because we've only been married for 3 years. But she'll tell me, you changed, and I'm like, well, you changed too, because at the end of the day, the person you first met isn't the same person that you like love.
Yo,
but the truth of the matter is that when we choose to love somebody, we're choosing to love each different version of themselves. So like they know that.
Bro, not to cut you off, but right there you hit it over the head.
Yeah,
you're choosing to love somebody. You know what I mean? Like it's a choice, bro. Like it's a decision that you're gonna make. And why do you think that in your vow when you're getting married it says through sickness and through health? Like there's no time through death do we part. Like this is a decision that you're making, not like things could change tomorrow, next week, and a month from now, 6 months from now, 6 years from now. Like things can change, but I'm choosing to make a decision because I made a commitment under God that I'm going to continue to love you. Like you don't think that if it were that way, do you think God would have been left us? Okay,
yeah.
Like he chose to give himself up for us. Okay, knowing we were going to screw up, knowing we were going to change every day. Okay, some for better, some for worse. You know what I mean? Like. But he chose to love us. So in that same way, that's why Christ makes that emphasis on us. And he tells us, what does he say? Love your wife as Christ loves the church, right? And we all know the church is a mess sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, bro, like we got brothers and sisters out here who be bugging, okay? But God asks us to love him. What is the greatest commandment? Love your God. In Matthew, love your God with all your heart, mind, strength, whatever. This is love your neighbor as you love yourself. Okay, so if you love yourself, you're not going to cause harm to your significant other. You're not going to hurt your significant other. You're not going to walk away from your significant other. You're not going to push away. Like you're going to work on your relationship. Like relationships involve work. You know what I mean? And the concept of soulmate, right? People get so caught up where it's like they don't need to put in the work sometimes.
Exactly.
It's like, bro, it's my soulmate. Like you were picked for me. This is supposed to work out. Like. No, like you have to work. A relationship involves work. And again, if Jesus is not the center of the relationship, is going to fall apart. When Christ was given that commandment for the man to love the thing and for the woman to love her husband, etc., he was understanding of that fact that, listen, I know things are going to get rough. I know there might be darker days than brighter, but I need you to do this and continue to push through with love. Why? Because I'm your greatest example, and I'm going to show you every single day how much I love you. I'm going to show you that when you look at that cross, you can know for a fact that I gave everything for you. So you better not give anything less. You know what I mean? So a soulmate is not a cheat code for you to be like, oh, you know what? They completely understand me. They truly think like everything's going to perfectly work out. Like, no, my man, it doesn't work out that way. You have to give effort every single day. And you know, honestly, in a relationship, you're learning something about the other person every other day. Like, I don't know everything about my wife. I'm learning gradually every day. I know that there's certain things that, you know, I've known over the years, but like you said, we change every day. And just because it changed, right, does not necessarily mean that that person's not, you know, I'm not compatible with that person, or that person's not the one for me, or that person's not my husband or wife. Like, no, these intangibles in life is what makes us who we are. You know what I mean? It's what makes you. the husband or the wife that you should be. So we cannot get caught up in this concept and just think that that is the end all be all for anyone. Okay, and that's why I think society pushes that. You know what? The devil is a liar. The devil is a liar, and the devil is going to cling on to certain things. And bro, we were talking about apps before. You people, what do they say? So they're trusting on the app to find a significant other, and then once they find a significant other, what's the concept that is said? I found my soulmate. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the trap, and that's the trap, and that's where we can kind of just completely get lost. You know what I mean? Because it's like, are you sure you find your soulmate? Because then when the divorce happens or the split happens or whatever, it's like, okay, so did you or did you not? You know what I mean? And it's sad. It's very sad that we've lost ourselves in certain appeals and certain aspects that has been pushed on us.
Yeah, something that I pushed. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man. You got something to say?
That I wanted to read in Genesis, 2:18. Says, then the Lord God said, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather use the word a helpmate versus a soulmate. And the reason why God was saying that is because when God created all these animals and then gave Adam all, the power or wisdom, whatever, to name the animals, he noticed. I mean, not like he didn't notice, but God is God. But he noticed that Adam was still incomplete. So that's why he grabbed his rib to make Eve, not as a soulmate, but as a suitable helper, because he was incomplete. So God created a woman to pretty much not complete him, but to be a suitable helper for his deficiency. You know what I'm saying? Now, I also don't believe that this verse, I don't know what you guys believe, but I don't believe that this verse limits it only to marriage only, when it says that God doesn't want a man to be alone or whatever. I believe that's just companionship in general, because none of us are meant to live isolated from the world.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So this verse is not necessarily about marriage. It's just being with somebody as a friend, being relational. We're relational beings. We're not meant to be alone.
When you said suitable, I was inspired. So I looked up the definitions of suitable, and it said, be agreeable, be fit, please, sit well with. Nowhere is it said that she was to complete him. They were different people. He was created out of Adam. Even in that situation where Eve was created for Adam, she was suitable for Adam. And I think that we lose a lot of the cause because we're trying to find a specific person to do that for us, when we got to find Christ first. And once we find Christ first, Christ will bring us different people that we may be suitable for us, and then we got to do the work, right? Like, you can't just sit there and be like, well,
nah, man,
I'm going to choose my boots.
All right, it's your turn now.
You do the work, buddy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but what I was going to say is that in that verse, right, he had him acknowledge the animals. And I'm pretty sure while Adam was looking at the animals and how they worked together and how they were helping each other and how they were there for each other and how they comforted each other, he realized, because God saw, right, but he knew his heart. He knew Adam's heart. So Adam was looking at the situation like, I should have someone as well that I could walk with, that I could talk with, that I could spend time with, just as the animals. And he's like, all right, I'm going to make sure that you are there, that you do have somebody that you can walk with and be by your side. You know what I mean? But even the animals, who did they depend on? They depended on God. You know what I mean? They knew God was there. You know what I mean? That's why the birds chirping in the morning. They know who's going to feed them. You know what I mean? They know who's going to provide. You know what I mean? So in the same way, it goes the same way. Adam knew who was providing. He knew who was his source, But when you don't know who your source is, you're depending on somebody else to complete you. You're waiting on somebody to come in and fill in all the blanks. And I think with a partner, one of the most important things that you should look for is how much does that person love Jesus? How much does that person serve the Lord? How much passion does that person have, and how much conviction they have in their I don't say compromiso, in their commitment with God. You know what I'm saying? Because if they don't have that or they're lacking in that, you're gonna be lacking in something in your relationship from the get-go.
Well, you're unequally
From the
yoked.
get-go.
Yeah, you're unequally yoked.
Period.
And I think that there's a lot of people. That's why I said that attraction brings in you, like whatever you're attracted to. But at the end of the day, the only way you could stay if that person's foundation is on Christ. If a person's
Right.
foundation is not on Christ, then there's no way that relationship will ever work. And you may not see it now. You may see it later on in the line when you guys are having kids and you guys can't decide on how to raise your kids because that person may not be very big into church and you may be full on to God, and now you're stuck in a situation like that. There's a lot of sisters and a lot of brothers are in those situations. So we have to be very careful and make sure 100% that this person loves God. Because if that person does not love God, there's no sense in dating. And that's why I think with Christians, that's how you filter out things. Does this person love God? Like, am I attracted to that person? Yes, check. Now, that gets you through the door. But does this person love God? If it's a no, conversation has ended. And that's why I said that a lot of we work in the way that I was talking to you guys about. I think that we would be much better daters because what happens is we'll realize, well, this person's not compatible for me because they don't love God, and they can be cute, but I'm not going to entertain that. Problem is that we're like, he's cute, so I'm going to entertain it for a while and see what it can do, and then I'm going to try to convince that person to go and do what I have to do. When the reality is like, yo, let him find God let her find God for herself. That's a mistake your boy did when he was 19. He tried to make a girl find God for him, and it doesn't ever work. It doesn't work out for you. So learn, either if you don't believe me, you're gonna get burned. But I'm telling you from experience that it won't work out for you trying to get somebody else to love God the way that you love God. They have to, because at the end of the day, the only person that can give testimony for your life is you. So if that person doesn't love God and that's not the center, then you're wasting your time already.
And you know what? People are okay with just he or she attends church. Like I see them in church, or I'm thinking, but the person is inconsistent. You know what I mean? The person is not serving. The person is not, you know what I mean, devoted. Is not like, it's not putting their part in thing, but they met the opening qualifier, which is, you know what I mean, they're in church, or I see them in church. Like, I think that the initial is, I think somebody mentioned the word, is their foundation. Where is their foundation? Like, if they're a solid, a solid Bible-based Christian, where they're reading their scripture, they pray, they serve the Lord, they have a very good testimony with people, I think. And that's on the outside. If you're just meeting somebody and you don't know those things yet, that's what you need to know. Like, that's what you need to, that's the information that you need, you know what I mean? Not really what movie they like and you know what I mean, and what do they like to do on Friday nights, and if they're a good bowler, or you know what I mean, like, that's all cute, but that's not really going to get you to where you want to be. So I think your core questions are really that, and it's really understanding that, you know what I mean? Because go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, to change things up a little bit, then there's people who take it to an extreme, and there's women out there that just want to marry a pastor. And I'm gonna tell you something, ladies, it's not all that cracked up to be. I promise you, it's not what it's cracked up to be.
Or the youth leader, or the worship leader, you know what I mean?
Or the worship leader.
Top candidates.
It's not cracked up to be. When we talk about finding a man that loves God, we're just saying find a man, or for a man, find a woman that works God first in their life, that they're showing different fruits of the Spirit, not necessarily their precision. Because a lot of people be like, well, I want to be married to a pastor. You know how much pressure comes with being married to a pastor? There's a lot of pressure that's on that. You know how much pressure that comes from being married to a worship leader? Kevin could tell you. He could tell you the whole day. There's a lot of pressures in these positions. So it's not all that was cracked up to be, to just say, well, I want to marry this pastor, I want to marry this person. Find a person that's suitable to you, and that person could be the usher. But if that person loves you, and that person
cleaning toilets, why not, bro?
Yeah, but that person's doing everything.
You know what I mean? I bet you that person's overlooked right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You serve the Lord. What you doing? Oh, I'm cleaning toilets. I'm the facility guy. Oh yeah, nah, you ain't made the cut, brother. You gotta
Yeah.
go. You know what I mean? Like it's
For
right
Christian
away
girls,
overlooked. Or that
Christian,
sister who probably
yeah.
don't wear no makeup or probably don't
Mhm.
do her hair or whatever. It's like, nah, you know what? I need somebody. Like, no, man, no,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah,
no.
you know how the world the girls cut you off if you're not 6 feet. For Christian girls, they
Right.
cut you off if you're not worship pastor, worship leader or higher, and that's a problem. And it's a truth. I had to say it. There's a lot of brothers out there who are doing usher ministry, who are cleaning the toilets, who love God. Do not look at
Yes.
the person's title as a reason
Yes.
to cut off, because you promise you, sister, that's not. It's first of all, it's not as much as you think is going to be cracked up to be. It's not as fun as you think it's going to be, and a focal point should always be on what does that person do? Does he love God? What are his fruits? Does he love? Does he show love? Does he show affection? Will he love me? Is this a person that I can respect? So be careful. Be very careful.
Oh, and also don't rush. I think that's one of the key things is just take your time, bro. Take your time. I think too many people try to rush into stuff, man. And it's look, every commitment that I've had in church in general, I've taken my time to pray and honestly see God, you know what I mean, to make sure that I'm making the correct decision, you know? And in relationships it's the same thing. Like you have to take your time to say, you know what, this is the person that I'm going to continue this step forward with, and we're going to take it slowly. You know what I mean? We're gonna build our friendship,
But
we're gonna build
Rise,
the level of trust and understanding, etc. Go ahead, Joel.
no, but I was gonna say Rise. I don't know, man. Like I'm not like worship leader. I'm not any of these things, and I don't have those
You
problems.
are 6 feet tall though.
You are
Dang,
6
bro.
feet tall, and you have 10,000 subscribers. You do have
Ooh,
10,000.
Dang,
ooh.
I don't
dang,
know.
Rise.
I don't know.
Go, brother.
I'm actually 6'1", by the way. Kevin, you're like 6'3",
There you
right?
go. That's it. That's it.
You're
Just
6'3", right,
you
Kevin?
know what? Yeah, I'm 6'1", 6'2", roughly. Yeah.
Because I know you're an inch taller than me, and I'm 6'1". But with that said, it's funny because nobody here's short. Emmanuel's 6'3" for sure. Like Emmanuel's like a tower, son. But like, it's funny, son, because all of y'all are married and y'all meet these like qualifications. Like everybody's here mad tall. Everybody here is like some kind of ministry. Like, so it's like, yo, you guys are the generic people that Christian women will love. Like tall, handsome. So it's like everything y'all are saying doesn't even apply to y'all. Like Emmanuel's 6'3", this dude Kevin 6'2", Rise is like 6 feet, bodybuilder. It's like these things don't count to y'all. So it's like y'all can't even, you know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy, man. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, I
Like
feel
y'all
you.
can't even sympathize with the people.
With
Y'all
the
just
small,
saying it's
with the
wrong,
smaller
but you
folk,
can't
man, we're
even.
trying out here.
Yeah, but it's like you guys can't even be like, you guys can't even be like, oh yeah, I could relate to y'all. You know? That's what I'm saying. But Kiana, don't say that, Kiana. Clearly it's because Kiana didn't hold back.
I
She's like,
told
yep,
you.
Nah.
I like tall guys with
Kiana
nice
said,
beards. If
This is
Kiana
Emmanuel
loves
was
it.
5'3"
right
instead of
here.
6'3", if Emmanuel was 5'3" instead of 6'3", I don't know if I'd be talking to him. That's what Kiana just said. That's what just Kiana just said.
You
Kiana's
better
honest.
hope
That's
what
why I
you
said there's a
said.
certain level of physical attraction there, and we cannot over spiritualize and pretend that we don't find the people that we're with attractive. If you don't find the person you're with attractive, it shouldn't even be a conversation. Like that's just a reality. There's something that had to attract.
But
you.
is it fair though? Like a woman saying, "I don't like this guy because he's 5'6" or 5'7",
I think that
but he got.
I think that a woman need. I think that oftentimes there's been studies that show that women oftentimes go for the top like 1 or 5% of the male population. I do think that women tend to be more picky in that regard in how they choose. Like if somebody over 6 foot, like people who are over 6 foot generally get or have an easier time than people who are under 6 feet. So I do think that women do need to open up, like in general, like what their qualifications are, and not be overly picky and overly specific. Sometimes females becoming more laundry lists of what they want in their brother, and that's why I was talking about if he's the janitor, it's okay. But they also be like, he has to be 6 feet, he has to be this, he has to be that, he has to be that, and they'll brush off a lot of good guys who they are attracted to. It just doesn't fit their specific wild qualification. So.
But I mean, I would say though, I think we should all have a level of picky, because the person that we're actually going to settle down and choose is going to be the person for the rest of our lives. So I think when we kind of narrow it down, you know what I mean, you do have to, I think in the initial, you don't have to be so picky if the intention is really just get to know people and be friendly. But at the same time, I think that this is a life decision, you know what I mean? So once you do settle down,
but
you know what I mean?
It's not a life decision. Like, you know what I'm saying? Whether that man is 6 foot or 6'2" or 5'9" is not a life decision. Like, that's what I think we're trying to say. So there is an initial like attractiveness that there is, and a lot of it, I'm not gonna lie to you, comes from social media, right? Like, I for the most part, I'm not on social media. I'm on Facebook and pretty much that. But social media has put a certain amount of people in the limelight, which people follow, and people want to either look like them, be like them, or they fantasize of being with them. So what happens is that they put people on these impossible standards, which nobody can fulfill, right? Not even those same people can fulfill those same standards. And it really skews people's viewpoints on what really is attractive and what is not attractive. My wife says that my wife told me a phrase in Spanish that there's no ugly woman, just women that are bad dressed or badly fixed, right? What is it? Something like that. And what she's just trying to say is that if we really look, and we could be open, we really realize that there's a lot of people that we may initially be like, well, they're ugly. The truth of the matter, they're not really ugly. It's just that we might be seeing them in a different light. So be more open to that.
To be honest, when you get to know somebody, you do start seeing them in a different light. You know what I mean? Because I've met people where you see they're completely serious. You don't see them smile at all, bro. And you're like, damn, I don't know if I should approach this person and say hi or just, continue my own lane. And then when you get to know them, you see a completely different personality, and you're like, wow, this person is awesome. Like, this person has great qualities in a person, in a friend, etc. So the initial part of it, sometimes people are different, and that's why you kind of have to break that boundary. That's why getting to know somebody to me is crucial, because when you get to know somebody, you really see how they are. And then it's like, all right, I kind of like this person. I kind of, I have a good friendship or good understanding or compatibility with this person. But if you don't do that initial part, it's going to be very hard for you to know, whether this person can be attracted. Because there's been people, to be honest with you, where they don't see an attraction in the person right away. And then eventually
But bro, how does that work, bro? I don't get it. If somebody's ugly, then they ugly, bro. How do they get not ugly as you get to know them?
Ugly is
like I don't understand. I never got that before. Like people like, yo, Joel, talk to that girl over there. Attraction grows over time. Wait a minute, I'm not attracted to her now. So how is she gonna be attracted to me later? Like I don't know how that works.
Yes, I agree with you, JP. That there's certain people we're not attracted
to an extent, but at the same time, JP, if you were to give that person an opportunity to get to know them, eventually over time,
so if I get to know somebody
like, wow, this
ugly,
person is actually
so wait,
really nice.
So if I get,
so
if I give some
nothing. No, but not
hold on, Kevin, let me stop you right there. Kevin, let me stop you right there.
Okay.
So you're telling me that if I get to know somebody ugly and I give them the opportunity to get to know me better, that means they become not ugly? They're physical.
But what if that person just was a bad hair day? They didn't do their makeup, you know what I mean? They didn't dress right, and you're gonna take that initial first view and be like, oh, I can't.
Wait. So Kevin, you're telling me that if an ugly person didn't have their makeup on, and that's the standard, so
but
that's
how we identify
that's why attraction
ugly?
grows?
I like Kiana's thing, unattractive. At the moment you find somebody, that word is perfect. Unattractive. So at the moment you see they're unattractive, does not necessarily mean that, okay, I have to completely omit this person. That's my thing.
I guess what you're saying, I feel like you're being politically correct and you're being a Christian, and I get it. It's good to be Christian, but
well, I mean,
it's also
God didn't God didn't
No,
say
I
he
get it,
was
bro,
all, he was ugly.
it's
You know what
like
I mean? So
it's like if you're not
that shit is
attractive to
personal.
some, no,
I would
I
say
mean
it's
if you're
just
not a,
I
Yeah,
would
but
say
you're
it's
not.
just
You might not be attractive to one person, but be
yeah.
attractive to another person. You know what I mean?
I don't think
Like
having types is a bad thing. That's what I think I'm trying to say. I think what's a problem is if your type is just to have to be 6 feet. Then that's not a type. That's a preference. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think having types where you find a person unattractive, uh, that attraction is such an important part of a relationship. Now there are certain people who, God bless them, who are able to look past their physical attraction and become attracted to that person in a different way, whether that's emotionally, whether that's mentally. But at the end of the day, if you're not attracted to that person in any one of those ways, then you're just not going to be attracted to that person. But there are different ways of attraction, though. We could agree on that. So somebody could not, you could not be attracted to somebody physically, but I've met, especially, I would say generally females do this better. That they
yes,
could be attracted
100%.
they could be attracted to a male based off their mentality. Now, that's what I said earlier in the live stream.
and money.
I think 99% of men
mentality and money. Let Emmanuel give
they
you
have
that
a blind
I
mindset.
mean, I will say
They
this: for a lot of women, money make the man attractive real quick.
That's
Okay,
what I'm saying. Money
dude,
make the
brother has
money.
money. The looks come right with them, bro.
Yep, that's so
Well, I mean,
true. But we need to be careful more for the women because, and I always tell my kids, my youth at work this again. All this that we're talking about, I do this for a living, so I feel like I'm working right now. I'm just not getting paid. But I tell my youth, I listen. Number one, learn to be content as a single. Because don't go into the relationship seeking happiness. You can be happy in your relationship, but that's not where you'll find your ultimate happiness. And number two, learn to be not just financially, but learn to be independent as a single.
Amen.
Versus depending on that person who you are with in your future, especially financially. Like for the ladies, don't be so dependent on your husband that he does everything for you, and God forbid he dies, and you don't even know what to do with your life. No, be what is it? Be a boss chick. What is it they call it nowadays? Be a boss woman. Be your own boss. Do what you got to do for yourself. Of course, your husband is going to be there to provide and protect and treat you like a real woman and whatnot. But in the case that anything that can happen, you know how to handle things on your own. So be independent.
And the first one that you said, we were like, "Oh, you don't make me happy anymore." It's like, so their happiness was dependent on the significant other as opposed to God. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not the responsibility of someone else for you to be happy. You know what I mean? Like, you have to make yourself happy. You know what I mean? If not, no one's ever gonna make you happy. You can't rely on men to make you happy. It just is never gonna happen. So that's a great point right there.
Small testimony, guys, a small testimony. And I'm not even, and I don't know about you guys, if you were either when in the world or even before you were married, but I used to struggle with something so much. And it's because we're men and pride gets in the way. But I used to feel so uncomfortable being with a woman that made more money than I did. I used to hate it. It just makes me feel bad. Now, I don't really care no more because number one, I know where my value comes from and my worth doesn't come from anything that I possess, whether it's money or college degrees or whatever. But let me tell you, my wife, she has a bachelor's. You know what I have? Some college degree. I mean, some college classes. I don't have a college degree at all. You know what I'm saying? And she still makes money more than me. Since we've been married or since we've been dating, she's always made more money than I. But
Emmanuel, you know what's funny? And I'm going to not encourage you because you already know this, but just for the audience, and I want you to continue. The thing is, you're not necessarily a bum, right? Like, financial literacy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, financial literacy. You work 2 jobs. You know how to manage money. So I think it's a difference if a woman had accomplished bachelor's degree, work, and then the guy was a bum. but it's
Mhm.
like you're out here getting it. Like you're out here changing lives. Like
Yeah.
you changed my life dang near the last meeting we had. So it's like, to me, I think like there has to be like a different distinction. Like, okay, your woman may make more than you, but it's like you out here getting it yourself. So it's like,
Mhm.
not to say that any woman does this, but
Mhm.
no one can throw it in your face. Like, oh, Emmanuel, I'm better than, no, wait, no, slow down. I'm getting it in too. And I feel
Mhm.
like that's very important in marriages. Like, if your wife is successful, you have to strive to be successful too.
Mhm. Yep.
And it's like you have that. It's like you're out here working in schools, you're out here giving financial advice, you're out here doing that on social media, you're out here, working extra side jobs for debt and things like that, and storing up money for wealth. So I think like that's a huge distinction, but continue on.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't have to say anything else. That's what I was gonna say. That the fact that I don't have a degree and she does, but I'm not a bum. I work. I mean, I moved from New Jersey to Miami. I moved my whole life. I started with zero financially, friends, family, everything. But I worked. I mean, I was pursuing somebody who I wanted to be with. Of course, I'm gonna work hard, right? And I still do. I mean, like you said, I work. I work 4 days or 5 days a week, and those 4 days I do Uber right after work. So it's like I do what I got to do. I still provide for my
But
wife. I still do what I can, and I'm not a bum.
yeah, right. And I think that's it. That's the great quality, and the great value that you need to be able to find is somebody who's going to pursue, somebody who's going to, not stop at no ends to make sure that they express their love and they're there for you, and they're being present when they're actually with you. So, because as you said, the last thing you want is a bum. If you got to be behind the person trying to thingy, and you're the one making the constant efforts, and you're the one that's putting in the work, it's going to be a one-sided show, and I think that's going to cause a lot of stress in a relationship.
Amen.
What I was gonna say is, the reason why women oftentimes look for men in terms of money is because our society, that's how our society is built. Unfortunately, people put a high premium of value on how much you're worth. So oftentimes, when women want to submit to a man, they look at them financially, and it's the wrong mindset to have, because whether the person makes more or doesn't make more is kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. I know people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars and they don't know how to use it, manage it properly. So really, they're not making anything. They're working just through debts. So it's not so much about how much you make, but it's also very important as how much you manage your money. But that's not the only thing that could contribute to your self-worth and to what you bring to the table. At the end of the day, you have to bring something to the table. Sometimes females say that they are the table. That's incorrect. Females also have to bring something to the table as well. They both parties have to bring something. Believe that the man has to show the woman a reason for why she should be able to submit to him. For some women, it's like, well, do you make more money? Do you make more money than me? And they're willing to submit to that man because they make more money than them. Now, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but that's what some women do. Uh, for some women,
Hold on. Rise. Let me shut down something in the chat. Adrian, if you're flirting with women, stop putting my name in your flirtatious attempts. Please don't do that. You flirt like a man and hold it like a man. Don't try to throw my name in there like, oh, JP this, JP that. No, brother, you flirt like a man, brother, and keep me out of it, brother. I'm not interested in anybody, and you best believe I ain't short of options. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
well, that was awkward. But what I was
It
saying,
was awkward, but bro, read the chat. Read the chat. That brother, that brother keeps throwing me in with another girl. Like, bro, like I get it, bro. You might have a crush on this girl, but stop mentioning my name. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. I made a little joke, and every 5 seconds he's like, "Oh, JP this, JP that, JP this" to that girl. Bro, don't be a spiritual simp, bro. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying, brother. Don't be a spiritual simp, bro. That's all I'm saying, brother. Come on, brother Adrian. Come on.
All right. So what I was trying to say,
I can't with you, Joel.
be a table. There's a lot of people who are in situations where they may be attracted to a man in a mental way. Like I said, that there's a lot of but what do you bring? And that's why my brothers, when you're single, especially specifically also my woman, because Emmanuel said to like become a boss chick, is you gotta fall and be comfortable with your own self to the point that you know what you bring to the table. A lot of people, they try to rush to be in a relationship because they think that they're gonna find their self-worth in the relationship. And that's completely wrong and that's completely off. You have to find your self-worth, what bringing gotta be comfortable with what you bring to the table, what you do, the person that you are, before you can possibly know or date anybody else. And I think a lot of people, the reason why they're in bad relationships is because they don't have any self-confidence or any self-value in themselves. And what they do is they put their self-confidence and self-value on their partner and what they do to with their partner. And because of that, man, if their partner hurts them, they fall into such a deep form of depression. Or if their partner fails them, they fall into such deep form of depression because they are at a certain point idolizing who their partner is or who they think the partner could be instead of viewing it as a relationship. Yes, man is the head of the household, but just because a woman submitted to the man does not make the woman less than the man. But that's why I always tell my sisters, make sure that the man that you are with is somebody that you are able to submit to. It's not just a spiritual bum, or not just spiritual bum, but not just a bum in general. Because there's a lot of women who they're doing 100, 200K jobs, right, and killing it, and their husband just sits in the couch all day and play video games. And that's the difference. It's not that they're doing something with their lives; they're just sitting in the couch and just play video games. They don't do anything at all. And that's not me saying that you shouldn't play video games. That's me saying that there has to be something you bring to the table. If you want to, because a lot of dudes who will take that commandment and be like, well, you have to submit to me because it's biblical. Yeah, but it's also biblical. You gotta love your wife as you love yourself. So how are you showing love to your wife? What are you bringing to the table if you're supposed to cover her?
Yo, I have
right.
a question. Kevin,
hold
I have
on,
a question.
I've always had the concept of a woman is going to respect you when you submit to God. A woman is going to lose that submission or that respect for you when there isn't no submission to God. That's the concept that I've always had.
Yo, I have a question to ask, Emmanuel Rise. So with predestination and what you see, I'm gonna tie it in. No, Emmanuel, you see where I'm going with this. All jokes aside, I'm more serious. So with predestination, right? Predestination and election and things like that, like or predeterminism or whatever it is, compatibilism, whatever it is, whatever the view is. How do you feel that plays into finding a spouse? Like obviously I would hope to, I don't know if you guys believe that God chooses your spouse verbatim, like here's your wife, how does that work? You know what I'm saying? In terms of predestination, does the Lord predestine a wife for you, or like how does that? What is the approach? Should you pray about? Obviously, you should pray about all things, but how does that work? Like where does God come in? Where do we come in? Does God have a wife for you from the foundations of the earth? And how does that work? Because I'm really confused. How does that work?
So I believe God chooses and you chooses. I believe it's both. But we also got to remember, and we all know that God knows everything that's going to happen before it happens. So, for example, because I chose Kiana to be my wife, obviously I didn't know that was going to happen. But there was not going to be any other way or any other woman that I was going to be with, because God already knew that was going to happen. But that's why I believe in God's sovereignty, like, and compatibilism. God sovereignly, he does these things in a way where he doesn't interfere in the choices of humans. So he sovereignly does things, but we also have real choices. So you can never cross paths with God's sovereignty and man's responsibility. They run parallel to each other. They can never, they don't meet. They run parallel. God sovereignly does this, but man also has a real choice in life and is held accountable by God.
So,
Would you
basically,
look at it?
so basically, you get to choose, but since God knows all things, so like it just gets like confusing to me because it's like obviously you're responsible if you pick the wrong wife. Obviously, you're responsible because obviously people would tell you not to pick that wrong wife. Like for example, if I were to like marry a Jehovah's Witness, all three of y'all would tell me not to do it. And so if I do it, that's just me being an idiot.
Kevin will
But
pray for you. That's it.
oh, bro, come on. Bro, come on. That's a cheap shot, bro. Not here,
It
bro.
comes just
Let's
the
just
pettiness,
move on.
the
Let's just
pettiness.
move
My
on.
God.
That was a cheap shot, bro. That was
JP,
that was
for
not, that was
example,
that was out of
Would you have
Kevin,
to
hold
say it
on.
like this?
Kevin, hold on one
Go ahead,
second,
go
real
ahead,
quick.
Manny. Go ahead, man.
Rise, I mean not Rise. JP, a quick example. The Bible is very clear that it said that God was pleased to have his son killed on the cross. God appointed that for Jesus to be crucified. However, that doesn't mean that the people that crucified him were not at fault or were responsible. So you see how God's sovereign choice to do that while man was still responsible and putting Jesus in the cross?
Yep.
They run parallel. We will never figure out how those two work. It just we can't. We never know.
So in
We
other
just gotta
words, if
believe
I
what
marry a
Bible says.
Jehovah's Witness, that's my fault.
Huh?
If I marry a Jehovah's Witness, that's my fault for being an idiot.
Yeah.
Especially if I don't listen to wise counsel. 'Cause-
Yeah.
So Rise, how do you feel about this, Rise?
Wait,
Do you
Kevin wanted to
feel
say
like-
something. Kevin wanted
Oh
to say
no!
something.
Oh Kevin, no. Oh, well, let me ask you. Let me ask Rise and Kevin. Just let me reiterate the question. So again, the question is, what role does God play in you picking your spouse? Does God just deliver her to your house, or like how does that work? You know what I'm saying? Like how does that work?
Brad, you want to answer, or you want me to say?
I
what
agree
I
was
want
gonna
both of y'all to answer.
I agree with Emmanuel. I agreed with Emmanuel. Emmanuel was 100% correct about the sovereignty of God not affecting our choice, because God still gives rooms for for us to make decisions. But He knows all things. Like He's omnipresent, omnipotent, and obviously when we know that He knows what you're going to choose regardless. But He doesn't allow you the opportunity to make that choice. So it doesn't.
Now,
affect.
would you agree with this scenario? Because I'm totally with Emmanuel, but would you agree with this one with Adam and Eve? Like God made Eve and presented it to Adam, and Adam chose her. He right away fell in love. He could have been like, you know what, this one, I don't know, can we make another one? Like, can we try this again? He didn't. He fell in love with her. You know what I mean? Like he saw what it is that God had done.
I mean,
and he
Eve was the
thinking,
only
and what
woman
was he
on
doing?
earth, bro.
But she was perfectly picked and chosen and created.
Because she was the only one, bro.
Bro, but what I'm trying to say is that
No, I get what you're
listened to
saying,
her.
Kevin. I get what you're saying. I think
Also Adam was working. Adam was serving
Yeah.
God. He was doing what he was told to do, and eventually God put right next to him when he woke up. You know what I mean? The creation.
Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. I know what JP is saying. I think in that sense.
Oh no, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm literally asking.
Then never mind.
That's why I'm
Well,
asking.
I
don't
know what you're saying, but I think in that sense, Kevin, that Adam had privileges that we didn't. For example, Adam didn't have to be born as an infant and then work his way up and become a man.
Right.
He was already a man, or even in age, working in the fields, and he was already incomplete because
that man was never a baby.
He named all the animals that he was incomplete, and God put him to sleep and created a rib. I mean, created her out of his rib. So there was already a connection there. You know what I'm saying?
Kingdom. Hold on, brother. Kingdom daughters. Please don't disrespect me like that. Spiritual suicide. That is my phrase. So please don't do that. Please don't do that. Rise, can you vouch for me? I created spiritual suicide. I say it all the time.
You do, yes.
Thank you, Rise. Thank you. So, Sister Annie, please don't disrespect me like that, because you've been present when I used the phrase Yo, your chat is wild, Rice. This chat is wild.
That's
This
because
is
I
a
don't.
very
Because I don't
disrespectful
block
chat.
anybody. I just let unless like
Please start blocking people. Please
Nah.
start blocking people, bro.
I
Like,
just let it rise to its own conclusion. Whatever.
But yeah, I hope that
Oh my
answers your.
God.
I hope that answers your question, JP. Again, it's very hard with our limited minds to really grasp the sovereignty of God and human will. You know, in a way that God only knows how. Like I can't step outside of the boundaries of what the Bible already says about those two things. I can't really explain it more than that. Because then if I do, I'm gonna be going saying some wrong things.
Yeah, I agree. At the end of the day, I think Emmanuel hit it on the head about everything that he's saying. I think that, and I think Kevin said it. No, Emmanuel, whatever. They both said it. Is Adam is in a different situation than either one of us were. Any of us has ever been in. Very unique situation. And he did have a special connection. You could argue that he didn't have a choice because he had a special connection because that was his rib. She was made out of him, so there had to be some form of connection there. And that's what actually people probably use that to talk about soulmates. But even then, even that situation, I think what was brought up was that Adam still ended up having to choose his wife. God presented her, he did, and God took her. So it's very important to know that. And again, that we talked about that verse earlier, and he said that it was somebody suitable, somebody that would agree with him. It wasn't
Right.
necessarily somebody that was perfect for him. I would never use the
Right.
word perfect. There was never a completion there. But yeah, there was a question I wanted to answer, and it was Chico Mafia. And I wanted to answer it in a non-vulgar way, where he was talking about how somebody could be compatible to their wife, and the sex is not like really working out between them. To give the answer that I was going to give you, I don't think it's you, Chico Mafia, but I don't know how you would ask that question because I don't think you're married. But the answer that I will give is that the most important thing when it comes to sex is communication, and just enjoying that journey and communicating with one another. And that's the only way that you guys are going to grow in that area. And I'll leave it to that because that's the thing that's going to help you further that relationship. And that's something that can definitely be worked on during time, but it's not going to be worked on if there's no clear communication about what each other's wants.
so what was the question on sex?
It was, what if a person was super compatible? They're equally yoked. They like each other, but they're married, but the sex isn't good towards what.
Dang, bro.
No, but
Bro,
can I
that's
say
tough.
can I say one thing though? I mean, how would you like
What?
if things were done right and you never had intimacy before marriage, right? What would you have it to compare it to? You
I mean,
what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but you're making a hypothetical that they were virgins before marriage.
So
Right,
Rise,
that's what I'm trying to say though.
and so Kev, let me be honest with you. Like, I think that women go through this question, and I'm gonna just say it outright, but let's just be respectful here. Like, what if a
Mhm.
woman gets married and then the person's beef ain't like it's very small, and truthfully, it's like you're married to a man with a very tiny beef, and you're trying to, obviously, how do you deal with that as a married woman who's going to be sexually frustrated for the rest of your life? Or I don't know what the equivalent of that is for a woman, for a man. I don't know what the equivalent would be but same applies for a man. Perhaps the woman is very wide in certain aspects, right? I would assume that's the equivalent, but you're married to them. So now
Right. Now,
that's a huge level of frustration because marriage, that's one of the reasons for marriage. So I'm gonna just throw it at you, Emmanuel. Like, how do you handle as a counselor? Like, how do you handle that? No, because he is a counselor at the end of the day. So I wonder, how do you handle that as a counselor?
I mean, to answer your question, sorry, I know Emmanuel's going to answer it, but when it comes down to intimacy necessarily isn't totally affected by size of the actual like genitalia, because the truth of the matter is that the genitalia doesn't necessarily have to be a big size for it to be satisfying to both couples. I think where people are making the mistake, and this is where it comes down to, is that communication is something, an exploration, in terms of what you got people are both comfortable with. But again, I think that people oftentimes leave things to themselves, keep things to themselves, and they end up being frustrated silently instead of being open and honest and direct with their couple about things
Right.
that they feel like is they're working, is not working. Obviously, don't share that with other people. Like, we're not in a position where we want to talk about sharing that with the world, because that's nobody's business but YouTube business, and you don't want to embarrass your significant other. Like, that's the end of the day. Like, that's one way to really kill the mood, embarrassing your significant other. But the internal communications is something that's going to be very important, and throughout the act, and even like during the day or whatever you guys want, so that you guys are both satisfied in that area.
Yeah,
No,
and I think
personally,
Kiana mentioned it earlier in the chat that if that's an issue, they should have a third party involved. For example, counseling, professional counseling.
Where is this going? If this is an issue, there should be a third party involved.
Wait, let me explain.
No, he's talking about counseling in terms of counseling.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
counseling.
okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah,
brother.
like I believe if there's issues like that happening, if there's issues like that happening, there's nothing wrong to go to professional counseling. And I think it's even better to go to professional counseling where the person is biased. They don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about that other person, and they're not going to choose a side.
Like,
you know
don't
what I'm saying?
go to a professional counselor at your church. Like, go to a different professional counselor.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
go to
definitely.
like, you're not be sensitive to these things, you know? Don't be like, we're gonna go to Brother Timmy's house today. Talk about this. Like,
That leader gonna be looking at you real different. I tell you that.
Bro, you gotta be kicked out the church. This was gonna happen.
you're not gonna get kicked out the church. It's not gonna be.
He won't know. Nobody
gonna
else
feel
gonna know,
awkward.
but that leader will.
Yeah.
That leader gonna be looking at you like, damn.
Like, hey, I know you're my
Not
youth
good.
leader, and I've known you since I was 15.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's no coming back from that.
No.
Well, one thing that I do believe though, that if it's something that God put together, I mean, I don't think they're gonna have issues like that. And communication is key, is what Rai said. Like, I don't think the size thing is the problem. I think the communication is probably the problem in the intimacy level.
So you don't think
because
body
of-
parts play any factor in bad sex?
No, because again, if you fell in love with that person, it's not something that.
I mean, there's an emotional aspect to intimacy. So
Yes.
you know
So
what I'm
as I
saying?
said, but you said it. You nailed it on the head before when it was communication. Like that's it to me. You know what I mean? Because what in the privacy of your bedroom, you know what I mean, how it is that you look to please each other is there's so many different ways, you know what I mean? So it's really what's spoken in intimacy, what real organic communication you could possibly have with your significant other that is gonna get it. Because if things are not expressed, there's gonna be frustrations, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I don't think the physical aspect is thing. If God has put two people together, trust me, it's gonna work out. It's just now is the part where the work. That's what we were talking about before with work. You got to put in work. Like, nothing is easy, man. Nothing is easy. You have to put work into your relationship, and you can't expect everything to just be, you know, peaches and flowers and everything else. Like, you know, you got to put in work.
It's like my brother. I have my brother from Cape Cod, which again, I'm going back to Cape Cod again because love Massachusetts. Just hate this teams. Can't stand them. But I'm going back to Cape Cod in a month. But my brother was talking about even just he works out heavily. Like, he works out even harder than I do, and like he goes and he talks about just bettering himself in physical aspect, because the Bible speaks about. And he's married to his wife, and they've been married for a bunch of years. But he just talks about the importance of, like, the Bible speaks that there's some value in working out, in physical fitness, in bettering yourself. At the end of the day, we want to be able to remain attractive to our significant others. Like, I think that's another thing that happen to a lot of people, and they get frustrated and upset, is that once they get married, they're like, well, game's over. And then they they let the person let things go, and then they're like, the person like, what happened?
Yeah.
Signed up for. And I think that especially us as Christian people, we should take value in our bodies and take value not just because it's a temple of the Holy Spirit, but also because at the end of the day, we want to look good for our significant other. We want to make our significant other person happy in that regard. So I think that's an important aspect. Now, I'm not saying that you gotta go and work out pretty much every day. Like, I'm not telling you to do that if you want to. You guys know where my gym. You guys don't know where my gym is, but you guys can go work out with me. But you definitely, I do think that there has to be a level of like taking care of yourself. That's important there.
But I mean, not for nothing though. If you look at anybody who started their relationships, their initial dates, what did you do? You took care of yourself. You made sure you got a haircut. You made sure that you were clean cut. You made sure that, you know, you had the right Piper attire. You know what I mean? Because what happened? You wanted to make yourself presentable to the person that was right in front of you. So now that you're married,
I mean, I don't know,
okay,
bro.
now I can just lay back
I
and
go out
not
on
do
dates.
nothing.
I go out on dates on sweats. Rise is my witness. Sweatpants and Nikes and a sweat jacket.
Maybe that's why you're still single.
Unfortunately, Adrian, I can't answer this question because I'm pretty sure Colin's looking at it. And if I remember Colin's last stream, he did come at Stephen Furtick for talking about him benching with his son. So because of that, it has to be a secret. I'm sorry, Adrian. I do not want to look boastful in any way, and trip you up in the face.
Bro, stop being stupid, bro. Like, how much you bench press? What's your personal record? Bro, if Colin come at us, that's his funeral, bro. That's spiritual suicide if Colin comes at us. You heard that, Annie?
Yeah. 290 pounds. 290
Yeah,
pounds.
you're mad weak, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Don't even tell him my PR. I'd be classified a woman.
Where are we going with this?
Basically, I can do 60 pounds on each side, so I don't know how much that is.
135.
135. So that's my PR. Y'all let the world know that JP can bench press 135. How much y'all bench
in
press?
In his sweats though.
I like JP's Nike Tech sweats though. He's mad fresh. He comes out with that. I have no problem, but I'm a dude, so.
Listen, man, that's how I go. Whoever I marry is gonna marry me for me.
It's
like,
true.
I'm not gonna be wearing any suits. I'm not gonna be wearing any particular attire. I'm not doing that. If I meet a woman, I will go on sweats. I will go on a sweat jacket and Nikes, Nike sneakers. So like that's how I'm getting down. If I happen to get a haircut, I happen to get a haircut. If not, this is what I'm gonna tell her. Look, I go to church, I have a job, I graduated college. Like, what do you want? You know what I'm saying? And let's just cut to the chase. You like me or you don't like me? If you don't like me, we're moving on. If you like me, we'll proceed. You know what I'm saying? That's how we're getting down.
Adrian, actually, it's funny that you say that because you got two baseball players here, and I'm not one of them. So you got Emmanuel and you got Kevin. You got two baseball players, and you asked about me. So those are the real baseball players. Emmanuel was from what I heard, he was a really good pitcher, and then Kevin used to play high school baseball.
College.
My bad. I disrespect you. I disrespect.
Yeah, man, don't disrespect me, bro.
Nah.
Don't disrespect me.
Yo, Rise, let me ask you a question.
300 hitter, right?
Hold on. Let me ask Rise a question because I'm reading this in the comment section. Rise, you know me since I was darn near 14.
Yes.
Would you put it past me to find the way to get away with wearing sweats on my wedding?
No, I wouldn't put it past. I'm serious.
Yo, Emmanuel, you're terrible. Emmanuel shook his head. He's like,
Give him wise counsel, Emmanuel.
Yo, Emmanuel shook his head like, nah, I wouldn't put it past
do that,
I wouldn't put it past him. He would possibly do it.
We'll have his court wearing sweats, kid. Like, yo, that's ridiculous, man. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I really wouldn't put it past him.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Man.
Whoever JP woman is,
wow, Kiana,
show up in a sweatsuit.
Kiana's trying to save my marriage. Kiana's trying to look out. Little sister's like, yo, maybe if we all don't go. Yo, man, I love sweats, man. Sweats are like an interpretation to me, you know? Like, I just love them, man. They look so cool, bro. Like you look like you know how you look when you wear sweats, like an animated character, like a cartoon, like you know what I'm saying? Like it just looks so cool, you know?
Yeah,
Very funny.
because you wear joggers a lot.
Yeah. Let me ask y'all a question. Emmanuel, when was your first date? Kevin, what was your first date? And Rise, when was your first date with y'all wives? And then I could tell y'all when my first date was, just in general,
My
because I don't
first
got
date?
no wife.
My first date was September 16th, 2016. Only because my wife and I we were long distance first, and then I came to see her for the first time on that specific date to Miami.
Emmanuel,
And I have pictures.
This dude, man, has
I don't remember
photographic
the
memory
date.
out here, bro.
I don't
I don't even know
remember
what I
the
did
date,
last week,
Emmanuel.
man. Look at Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, what?
7:45 at night, Eastern time,
Oh my gosh.
Western Pacific.
My wife is watching this as we speak, but it's okay. She don't remember the date yet. She's watching me. I think it was March 30th, 2016. The reason why I remember the first time I spoke to her, I was very close to my birthday, which I had just turned 23. So it was March 25th was the first time I started speaking to her. And then I had promised to and then I noticed that my job and her job were very close, like 15-minute train ride from each other. So one day I just picked her up from work, and I think it was about either March 30th or April 1st when I picked her up from work. So I would consider that our first date. Yeah.
I don't remember dates like that, guys. I'm horrible. I'll just tell you this. We initially met June 19, 2004. And
That's
our
wild.
first date was to go see Troy. I don't know if y'all remember Troy with Brad Pitt.
Yo, Kevin, meeting your wife, though,
That was our
Kevin.
first date.
But Kevin,
Yes, sir.
meeting your wife, it's just like the complete opposite of what a
Yes.
sweetheart, kind, calm, low tone, chill, and you're this loudmouth, sarcastic, wild man, crazy Dominican dude. Like, how did that happen? That's my question to you. Like, how does she get attractive to somebody like you, bro?
Listen, man,
not that I'm saying you're a bad dude, but it's your
No, definitely.
personalities are
No, 100%.
complete opposites. How did
Bro,
that happen?
and that's where you have God involved, bro, because I was a non-believer before. Well, we're an exception to the rule, because I was a non-believer and my wife was a believer. And my wife converted me basically because she was Christian and I wasn't, and I was curious to know about the faith because I was Catholic, one of those Catholics who just say they're Catholic but never go to church. You know what I mean? We show up on Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday, and that's about it. So so I met her and saw her how she was, and you know what I mean? I was like, okay, I'm interested in to know who this God that she is going to church with and attending with and whatever and is passionate about. So that's how I met Jesus. And then eventually, you know what I mean, we continued our relationship. But that's the only thing that really ties people together sometimes is Jesus. And that's what I was saying. You know what I mean? If the person loves Jesus, then that's when things really hit their stride.
Yeah, Rise and Kevin and Emmanuel, if you guys can just check the group chat, because I'm gonna take more of a serious turn. All jokes aside, so I get emails from people from the LGBT community. I've gotten emails from people who identify as men, some as women, and some people that have gotten changes, who now are women in the eyes of society because they've gotten operations and they transition. So if a man or a woman transition to the opposite sex, and they marry somebody, for example, a man transitions to a woman and then they marry a man, does God bless that marriage?
No.
That's just the question I'm asking because,
No.
Okay.
The Bible makes it very clear.
How do you handle that, Rise? How do you handle it?
Well, biblically, It's the only way you could handle it, because any other way will come off as hate speech.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bible makes it very clear that homosexuality is an abomination before God. And just because you change your parts does not make you a man or a female. Like there's certain, like if you were to stop taking the certain hormones or the hormone suppressors, your body will continue to put that actual hormone out there. So like testosterone, like your testosterone levels will always be higher as a man than a female. It doesn't matter what you change in your body part, you will always produce more testosterone, and they have to put testosterone blockers. So biologically, you are a male. So because biologically you are a male, you cannot be marrying another male. So that'd be a gay marriage. Really, inside of the church, you wouldn't be technically be married.
Mm-hmm.
What if the guy didn't know?
No, but to know, for instance, if you're gonna get married and under a Christian pastor, we got to gather that information. You know what I mean? There's no way that pastor is gonna marry him knowing that basis. You know what I mean? I wouldn't. My core conviction, I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I can't put this marriage together.
And let's get this straight. If you get married in the law, or like you get married in the court, you're still married. Because I know there's some certain people who think that I have to be married in front of the church.
By the church. Mm-hmm.
At the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case. Like if you go get a nice
civil wedding
court case, you're married. All right?
Mm-hmm.
You are all in purposes married. But what I'm saying is that you're not married in front of the church is because God does not ordain or accept that marriage because it's two homosexuals. Now, if two heterosexual people got married in a civil court case, that's fine. You are legally married. God will honor that marriage if you guys presented before God.
Correct.
I agree with everything you said.
Interesting. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
You can change their look, but biologically they are a male if that's how they're born with. And
so if a man marries a woman who used to be a man and they don't know, are they in sin?
No. They don't know. I mean, they should find out, and they will find out eventually because
eventually they'll find out.
How do you hide that? You know what I mean? Like,
well, there are operations and things like that.
Yeah, but you still got to take testosterone boosters. Testosterone suppressors. You have to understand that if a person changed their thing, they have their rest of their life, they have to do certain things to continuously make sure that their body doesn't produce what it's supposed to produce.
But let me ask you a question. I mean, once you find out, your whole relationship is based on a lie. Mm-hmm. So how does that work from there?
You get married.
I mean, it's easy. Just look at the person's neck to see if it's a woman or a guy.
Well, you would have to touch their neck, but couldn't you shave that off? I heard you could shave it off.
Yes, I've heard the same thing too, JP. But again, legally, what do you do if your whole marriage is fabricated on a lie?
You will get divorced legally, and then you'll be free both from the law and you'll be free spiritually.
Right. Exactly. So that's the point. Like, it's a lie, bro. So it's.
I just don't see how somebody. I don't see this situation happening to a Christian that was in the faith, because at the end of the day, for the church not to know that person wasn't transsexual, for that person to hide it from every single person, first of all, that seems very difficult. When you getting to know somebody, for that family to hide it from you, right? Because you usually meet the family before you even talk, before you even marry the person. For the family to hide it from you, from her friends to hide it from you, or his friends to hide it from you. Like, that seems like a whole scheme and a whole lot of work for just one person not to know.
Freaking mastermind, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everybody plotting against you. Yeah, I wouldn't trust anybody in that family.
It's amazing how people try to say, I identify as a woman, all while taking all of these medications. It's like, it's not natural. Like, God didn't make you that way, so you got to do a million things to try to suppress it. It's like God God has given you natural things so that you can be what you were created to be. But when you go outside of God's design, you got to do a million things.
Well, the thing is that a lot of people aren't realizing is that they're not treating the mental illness that's there with gender dysphoria, where certain people who feel like men. I mean, that gender dysphoria is viewed as a mental disorder. Like actually, like if you look it up, it's a mental disorder. But what happens is a lot of people in the LGBTQ camp don't say it's not a mental disorder. This is what the person actually is. This person who has this mental disorder actually is that male, even though they may be a female. And then they try to do it during an age period where oftentimes people experience gender dysphoria, which is around the age.
Yo, somebody asked.
8, 9, 10.
Rise. I know that we're gonna end at 11, but somebody asked a question. How do you deal with marrying people of other faiths?
I don't marry people of other faiths. I will never marry somebody of other faith.
We'll never do it either. No.
It's not biblical. It's unbiblical to do so.
Nah, it would be dumb.
Yeah.
It'd be dumb.
And if you do,
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there's no hypotheticals here.
There's no hypotheticals here. Because if you're gonna be married by a Christian, then what you're saying is you believe what I believe. If you're actually Hindu or something, then find a Hindu priest or whatever. Don't find a Christian to marry you. I wouldn't be able, even if you were a close friend of mine, a super close friend of mine, I couldn't do it.
No, yeah, just flat out. We would just be honest with them and say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My faith, I can't do that. And that's it. If you can find someone else, well, that's fine. But myself, I would not do that.
I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't go to their wedding. If it's like a Hindu friend of mine, I never say I wouldn't go to their wedding. What I'm saying is I couldn't be able to marry you at all.
Nah, bro. How are you gonna go to a Hindu wedding, bro, and be an enabler of sin?
But that doesn't make no sense. What you're saying.
No, that's not enabler of sin, JP, because even though they are not of the Lord, they are at least getting married they're doing the right thing, getting married legally versus sleeping around. I mean, we don't know if they were sleeping around before, but at least they're coming together in front of witnesses and the law and they're getting married. For example, if that's the case, then I would have said that same thing to my brother and his wife. They're not believers, but I attended his wedding. Why? Because they were doing the right thing, even though they're not believers.
That makes sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of people weddings I've gone to that are Christian. But now, would I go to a homosexual marriage
nope.
thing? I wouldn't be able to.
That I would
no. Not would do either.
Then you'll be enabling sin.
Yes, because then I would be saying that by me being there that this is a real marriage, and I can't say.
But you know what? I would have a personal conversation with them though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, because I think that communication is important to say, hey, look, I love you, etc. But I'm not going to attend the wedding, and be straight up honest with them. I mean, my faith, I don't agree with the decision. So because of that, I won't be there. But that does not mean that I love you any less. Or I'm not here for you if you guys need anything, etc. But I can't do it. Yes, and if you don't have that conversation, it's going to be difficult because then now they're going to look at you and they're going to look at you differently. Like, wow, I thought we was friends. I thought you meant something, etc. And that's why the communication is important.
Actually, this was interesting because I know there was a pastor years ago who actually his church kicked him off the pastor board. The board kicked him out of pastorship because he attended his son's wedding and his son was gay. He attended it because it was his son, and then the church kicked him out as pastor. So very difficult decision. Unfortunately,
I hope that was an AG, bro.
No, it wasn't AG. It wasn't AG. But that's what sin does. Sin creates difficult decisions like that people have to decide. Where he literally got kicked off his pastor board, or kicked out of being pastor because he.
I mean, rightfully so, bro. Rightfully so.
I know, but it still is something that's difficult. You know what I mean? Like, it's easy from the outside to say, well, yeah, rightfully so. But
Mhm.
if it's your son, God forbid, I'm not.
Nah, I wouldn't go to my son's gay marriage. Like, why am I
Well, yeah,
going?
I think it's what I'm trying to say. I think it's easy to say right now that
That
you wouldn't be there, but I don't know in that
the
situation
scenario, yeah.
who you're gonna be.
No, I
But
hear you,
regardless,
but even if
I
my
would still
son,
have the conversation. I would still have the
Yeah.
conversation
yeah,
with my son and let him know, look, I
let
love
me
you. This decision of not going is not gonna make me love you any less, okay? But
I mean,
I
yeah, you
cannot
say
be
that.
there.
You say
let me
that,
ask you a
but
question.
no,
Let
no,
me
no.
ask you a question.
Let me go back to what I'm saying. You say that, but you know that your parents not being at your wedding is something that's scarring for life. Like this ain't a friend not being at your wedding. This isn't a brother. This is your parents not being at your wedding. So while I
Yeah,
say
but
it,
bro,
I,
you can't
no, but
condone that
listen
sin
to
though.
what I'm
So
saying.
it's that's why I said the conversation to me is very important.
But
Like you have
listen
to
what
have
I'm
a
saying.
real
Listen what I'm
man
saying.
to man
But
sit
listen what I'm
down with
saying.
your
You
son
think
and
that
be
the
like, look,
conversation doesn't
this
make
at
it
the end
any
of the
better.
day.
That's not necessarily going to be the case. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You think that because you said the conversation, oh, he has to completely understand. No, to that
No,
person,
I mean it,
look,
bro. If you're gonna
listen,
lose this, if you're gonna lose your son, if you're gonna lose your son over that,
Evan,
then it's just a decision that has to be made, bro. Because at
Evan,
the end
I
of the day,
understand
you
what
cannot be
you're saying.
sitting there at that wedding, you know what I mean, knowing that you are celebrating this decision that you
Evan,
know is
I
incorrect.
understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that I'm not telling you that I would do it. What I'm telling you is that I can't tell you what energy somebody would have if they were forced into that situation. That's why I've never condemned that pastor. I just always bring it up as a situation that's very sad that he got put into. Because for his son, he's like, well, you put the church in front of me. And that means that you're telling me, even if you're putting me that you love the church, because I'm telling you how a non-Christian person would view it, that you love the church more than you love more what the church thinks more
But
than what your
time
son.
out. But that's rise. But rise again. Time out. That would mean that the communication there is that the son seeing that he presented the church as one of the reasons why he's not going, as opposed to him presenting his core conviction and his faith as to why he's not going.
But even if you present your core belief and your core faith, what I'm trying to tell you is that doesn't necessarily mean that that person is going to receive it the way you're doing it. And in your situation, what you're saying is that they will automatically receive it. What I'm
No,
trying to
no,
tell you,
I didn't say that they're going to
listen,
automatically
I've been
receive
letting you
it.
speak. I've been letting you speak. What I'm
I'm
personally,
not saying that.
what I'm trying to tell you is that that is a possible situation where you have lost your son for good. And what I'm trying to say is, I don't know how much of the same energy a lot of people will keep if they're asked to lose their son. That's all I'm trying to say, because there's some people that could have been the straw that broke the camel's back. They lost their son for good. Their son never comes back. The son never speaks to them. And for those people, you really got to show some empathy and love if that's the decision that they had to make. What I'm trying to say is that we all can't just sit there and make the decision. Well, yeah, I wouldn't go. Like, I want to say I wouldn't go, but like if Jonah, God forbid, was gay, and then Jonah decided to brought home, said, I'm gonna get married, and Jonah said, well, Dad, if you're not gonna come to my wedding, don't ever speak to me again. I'm not gonna be so quickly say, man, I'm gonna pray, it's gonna really hurt me to make that decision. So that's what I'm trying to say, and I think a lot of us by saying this, no, we're kind of saying is, well, that's an easy decision to make. By no means is it.
No one ever said it was, though. No one ever said it was an easy decision.
That's what you implying. But I say no, it doesn't matter. No, I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you what is right or wrong. I'm telling you that there's certain situations that in our walk where we got to make a decision that may really, 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 really hurt us, and may really, really hurt the people around us. And we have to make sure that when we make that decision, like we know where we stand, and B, that we may never get that person back. And I'm not saying that's something you're going to be okay with. I say that's something that you're going to have to mourn, and not make it just seem like, well, these are simple yes or no answers.
Yo, let me ask y'all a question before we go. The Bible says that when you have sex when male and female have sex, they become one flesh. Do homosexuals become one flesh with each other?
You're talking about like soul ties towards each other.
Well, the Bible says you become one flesh. So my
Yeah.
question is very simple: Do you become one? Do gay couples become one flesh when they have,
I'm gonna.
or are they just random people sticking their parts in parts that don't belong? You know what I'm saying?
I would say when we talk about one flesh, it doesn't go just simply into one flesh. The reason why there's weight is because there's like an emotional attachment there, and there's a spiritual attachment there that is made when the person has coitus with another person. So I don't think even if you did, even if it was the case that they become one flesh, being one flesh doesn't make it right or wrong. It just means that they ended up having a union based off their physical nature, not their physical nature, based off their desires. So you could say yes, you could say no, regardless, it doesn't matter. It's sin. It's the same way if I were to become one flesh with a prostitute. I'm in sin. Like I'm in sin. I'm fornicating with the prostitute. I'm fornicating, and just because we became one flesh does not make me any necessarily that I have to continue being in that situation.
But I mean, wouldn't the parts have to be corresponding? Like when we're saying one flesh is female and male, I know, but I'm saying two females are not necessarily connecting in flesh in a sense. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but that necessarily doesn't matter whether the person has whether the person, if we're gonna be biological, whether the person has intercourse and there's penetration and there's a climax. It doesn't matter. That doesn't necessarily matter if the climax was inside the person or was outside the person. You guys, by penetrating and having sex, this is what you've done. You've become one flesh.
Well, every single time you have intimacy with somebody else, you're connecting with that person.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people, when they have so many partners, they have an issue when they finally get with their significant other, because they have so many different connections with so many different people. And going back to something we were talking about before, I think you had asked, right, with the penis being small and they're having intimacy issues, those things can arise sometimes because you've had so many partners. And you're comparing everything to these different scenarios and these different situations that you've been in.
Yes.
So it's a problem.
Yeah, but I think that regardless if it becomes one flesh or not one flesh, that doesn't make it any less sin. Is what I'm trying to say. Like you wouldn't be like, well, we became one in flesh with my partner here, so we have to be together now. Like, no, that's not how it works out. That's not how that works out. So yeah.
Does that answer the question? Are you happy with that, JP?
No, I'm happy. I agree with Kevin. I don't think that they do become one flesh. Reason being, the parts don't connect.
But that's not a reason. That's not a reason to become one flesh or not become one flesh. Is what I'm trying to say. That's not a reason. Becoming one flesh is
you're looking at the one flesh as skip one flex. One flesh on the climax and the intimacy. That's really your notation on one flex. Yes. Now, but me and JP have seen a similarity in the parts don't connect as well. I think that's a factor also.
Yeah, but if you climax with a person, if you're having sex with a person and you climax,
bro, let me put it to you this way, Rice. If a woman gives a man oral sex, that's not becoming one flesh.
Right. That is true. I would agree with that.
It's when you connect.
I don't know about that though.
I would agree with that, Joel.
But why?
Yeah, it's when you connect. I think the Bible.
If a person
I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that
because
because
if a person's having oral sex, they're not having sex.
You know why?
I think that these are great points for our next line.
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead, Emmanuel.
I don't agree with that because when we look at sex, people automatically think home run. oral sex and all these other things, those are all part of sexual intercourse.
Of course.
They all blend
correct,
in
but it's
together.
not.
That's
It's
why the
not.
Bible says flee from fornication. It's not necessarily a hitting home run. It's
Yeah.
the whole thing. Oral
No.
sex, all that stuff.
I think that oral sex can be a sexual act. Like
Which is sex.
no,
It's
I
part of a
get
sex.
it, but I don't think it's the connection of actually a man inside of woman. Then I believe that's becoming one flesh, like
Yes.
the actual.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah,
think
we're gonna have to agree to
I would
disagree.
disagree
Yeah,
with
we
you.
are.
I
Nah,
would
this one we're gonna
disagree
have to
with
agree
you
to
because
disagree.
Yeah, I
think
reject your interpretation, right?
Well, I think because I think that's a dangerous mindset to have.
No,
Well,
it's not. I'm not
yes,
saying
it is.
it's right.
Oral sex
Hold
is
on.
not sex.
I'm not saying it's right to go around having oral sex just
But
because
why
you're not
is it
becoming
not?
one
Why
flesh.
is it, but why? Why not?
Because it's unethical. It's not Christian. It's not
Why-
the
why
right
is it
thing to
not
do. They're not your spouse.
It's sin, as you had
It's sin,
iterated
bro. It's
before.
Why
sin.
is it sin?
What do you mean? Why is it sin?
Wait,
You're
hold on,
fornicating. It's sin.
hold
Why
on.
is oral sex
You're,
sin?
you're
What
saying
is
that
sin?
You said it
You're
before.
saying-
It's fornicating. It's sin.
It's fornicating. What is fornicating?
It's a sexual act, is what he just said.
I just said it's a
Let's look at the
sexual
definition
act.
of fornicating. Let's look
Hold
at
on,
the
hold on.
definition of
Time
fornicating.
out. Okay, you're not listening to us.
I am listening
Rise,
to you.
you're playing word games.
Yeah,
Rise,
you're being
word
too
games.
technical, brother.
Rise, you're playing
How
word
you're
games. You're
being
splitting hairs.
technical.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
so let me clarify. Rise. Getting oral sex is wrong. It is
Yes.
a sexual
sin.
act.
Period.
But but there is a difference with that and actually being inside of a woman the way God designed it to be.
Time out.
There are many people. Hold on, let me finish. There are many people that say that, and as you know, our old pastor, Rise, our very old pastor, that would say that no. This was older, like back when I used to go to
No, that's
Rise's
fine.
church, other church. He used to think that oral sex wasn't even something that was permissible. Like it just was unnatural. So there are people cut off the cloth. They're like, yo, oral sex isn't even really a thing. It's when you're inside the woman that the intimacy really begins, you know, and all that stuff. So I hear what you guys are saying, but I believe that one flesh is when a man's penis is inside a woman's vagina the way God designed it to be. Because ultimately, let me finish, Rise. Let me finish with this. A man can give a man oral. A woman can give a woman oral, right? But what a woman and a woman cannot do, and a man cannot do, is go inside a woman
Yes.
the way God designed it. And I
Yes.
think that there's a clear distinction.
But you're talking about technicalities. You're throwing a technicality there. You're saying that it's
But we're
something
putting
that-
it together with the one flesh.
You're saying that something is a sexual act, but it's not sex. That doesn't
Okay.
make
All
any
right.
sense.
But
Whoa.
when the parts correspond and they're connected, they're one. The two people are interjoined. This is
Bro,
if we're trying to get
it's sex.
technical.
Bro,
They're
it's sex.
interjoined. But
Bro,
they're
everybody agrees with
interjoined,
us in
the
the
private
chat.
parts.
Kevin, everybody agrees with us in the chat.
No,
All right, so
agrees
like
with
you
you
said
in the
before,
chat.
if,
Look at the chat.
we can agree
Everybody
to
agrees with
disagree,
me and
brother.
Kevin.
We can agree to disagree,
Look,
brother.
the Kingdom God says the purpose of sex is to produce. That's one purpose of sex. So people are confused right now. That's one purpose of sex.
I said it's a great conversation for another day because right now we agree to
It's
disagree,
not a
brother.
good conversation. We're arguing technicalities. We're saying, well, this is sex and this is not sex.
Bro.
No.
We're not arguing technicality because I just told you
We're
anyone
talking
can
one
have
flesh,
oral
Papa.
sex. A dog.
But you
anything.
just said it. You just said it in the name itself. It's oral
Yeah,
sex.
it's a sexual act, but
Nobody
I do
says
not
oral
believe
sexual act.
it's a
oral
sexual
sex.
act. Bro, people could say making out and grabbing on buttocks is sexual
It's
act.
sexual.
But where
yes.
do we draw the line?
Time
What
out.
I
So
do
you're
know,
gonna
hold on,
compare
Rise, let me finish.
grabbing
Rise, I'll let you finish. Rise, I'll let you make your last statement and I'll shut up. I'll make you have the last word. So, Rise, all I'm saying is a gay couple, whether lesbian or homosexual, what they cannot do is what a man and a woman were designed to do,
Yes.
which is insert inside the vagina. I believe that is the ability to become one flesh. Since a homosexual and a lesbian don't have that ability,
Yes.
I do not believe they become one flesh. They're just people that are bound by Satan, as Kingdom Daughter said in the chat. They're bound by Satan. They have demons because they cannot become one flesh because they were not designed to become one flesh.
All right. Your problem with your argument is that touching somebody's buttocks or having a kiss on the mouth is not viewed as fornication. That's the problem with your argument. Fornication is when somebody does a sexual act when that person is able to climax. So when somebody's giving oral sex, there is a ability.
And me and Kevin both agreed that oral sex is sex. It's just not the sex that gets you into one flesh.
Yes, no.
We said that.
So you agree it's sex?
We agree it's a sexual act. Kevin and me said that
Yes,
multiple
I
times.
agree with that concept.
Bro, is oral sex or not?
We just said. I'll repeat it again.
Put it on the chat. Maybe he ain't reading
Yeah,
it.
no, the chat. Kevin, look at the chat. The chat agrees with me. Look at the chat.
No, we're on agreement, bro.
Yeah.
It's just
Look at
Rise
the
is
chat.
not understanding that
I guess
concept.
Rise is not gonna understand.
He's not gonna see it that way.
Yeah. So I'll say it again. I'll repeat because maybe Rise didn't hear me the fifth time. Oral sex is sex.
Okay.
A homosexual can produce oral sex. A lesbian can produce oral sex. It is sex. We agree there. What we are saying is we do not believe that that sex leads you to become one flesh because it is not the design that God originally intended.
Yes.
In order for you to be one flesh, you have to insert in the vagina, which is the way God intended it to be.
Yes.
So the people that practice oral sex in the LGBT community with the same sex, they're not doing anything but satisfying their flesh.
Yes.
And putting themselves in bondage. That
Agreed.
is all that we're saying.
Agreed.
With the
100%.
one flesh.
So
Because
I have a
think that
question.
go ahead.
So when the Bible says, when in Genesis, I'm paraphrasing, when the Bible says that when a man leaves his,
Emmanuel,
Uh-huh.
Emmanuel, the narrow way said it very perfectly in the comment section.
Let him
It's
speak.
a form of sex, but it don't make you one flesh. Agree with JP.
Wait,
What
come
I'm
on.
saying, my
Bro,
question
let me
is that when the Bible says that when a man leaves his family and cleaves to his wife, at what point do they become one flesh? Because it does say that when he leaves his family and go to his wife, they become one flesh. Is it when they get married, or is it when they actually finally puts his penis in her vagina? Because the Bible doesn't say specifically. Because the Bible doesn't say specifically they become one flesh once his penis is in her vagina.
Well, they're married, and they
are
able to
married.
have
Yes.
Right. When they're able
there's
to
a-
have intimacy now,
Exactly. Kevin,
under God's umbrella.
Yeah, I think that at that point you're being too technical. We all know what the
Time out,
Bible
time out.
means.
Oh, wait,
Hold
wait.
on, Rise.
No,
He asked me a
because
question.
listen to
He
what
asked me
you're
a
saying.
question, Rise.
JP, no, but listen to what you're saying. You're saying that we're being too technical.
Rise,
but
let me
we're
answer
not
the
being
question and then you
technical.
can tell us about being technical. I think that the Bible's very clear on what it means when a man leaves his house and gets married. The Bible's very clear on what it means. So number one, we can look at it as when you're married, you become one flesh. I believe that.
Mhm.
There's also a biblical verse that suggests that when you have sex, you also become one flesh.
Yeah.
So if you're not married, right, and you have sex with somebody outside of marriage, I am becoming one flesh with that person I'm having
when you
sex
have
with.
sex with somebody.
Hold on, Rise. I'm answering a
But
question.
You said it yourself.
Rise,
You
I'm
have sex
answering.
with somebody.
Rise, let me finish my response.
He will turn it over.
Yeah, I will give you the floor, and I've been doing that, Rise. Please. I know it's your channel. Rise.
When you have sex with somebody.
Okay, but
You
Rise,
said it
can I finish
yourself.
answering the question, Rise? You will have the floor. You will have your day in court. Okay? All right. So as Rise said, so as I was saying, so that's why in Jewish culture, people believe that as soon as you married if you had sex outside of marriage, that woman you had sex with was your wife. That was Jewish culture. All for it. So there's an element as marriage. When you marry somebody, you become one flesh. And so both things can be held true. That's all I'm saying. So Emmanuel, your question is not wrong. I'm just saying there's another side of it where if I have sex outside of marriage with a woman, I become one flesh. And this is according to Jewish culture and according to the Bible when it says, do you not know that when you have sex with a prostitute, you become one with the prostitute?
Again, you're being technical on what sex is.
I'm not being technical.
You just said I could speak.
Go ahead.
So you're being technical about what sex is, and that's the problem that I see here. You're saying when a man has sex with a woman, but then you confirmed earlier that oral sex is sex. But you're saying, but what you're really trying to say is when a man has vaginal sex with a woman, and that is the only way. But then you keep talking about sex. Sex is sex. At the end of the day, whether it's oral, whether it's vaginal, you two had sex. And
We just said that.
But
Kevin, did we not say that?
Yes.
do you see how you cut me off and then you get mad when I?
But you're repeating what we said.
I'm repeating it for your purpose. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say that oral sex is sex, but it's not the sex that leads to a specific union. Sex lead to union. If you guys are having sex, if you had oral sex, when you had vaginal sex, you had a union with that person. So at that moment, you became one with that person. You can't say, well, I didn't stick my thing in her, so I guess I did. We're not one in one flesh. That's not how that works. So I went, I ejaculated in her, and it doesn't count because I chose to not to do it vaginally. That doesn't make any sense, is what I'm trying to say. You're being very technical about what exactly may be constituted as male one flesh and what doesn't. And that is not how it flies. Because then we could be like going around, well, this is because what we're saying is that one sex is different from the other sex per se, when we can't necessarily say that if both things could be considered sex, if both things could be considered fornication. How can I consider oral sex and vaginal sex both fornication, but consider one worse than the other? The only thing that I could consider with vaginal sex is that vaginal sex could lead to other problems, such as having a kid.
Let me know when I can respond.
But I think at the end of the day, we are making excuses and saying, well, this is not sex and this is sex. Even though you're saying that, no, I agree that they're sex, you're degrading, or not degrading, but you're putting down one as being the one that creates a union, the one that doesn't. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let me make my last closing statements before we get out of here.
Yeah, we have to.
Me and Kevin both agreed that oral sex is sex. But what we were saying is that sex is a specific sex that anyone can do. It is something that is practiced in the LGBT community. But the sex that is between a man and the sex that is between a woman, that is designed by God, and that specific sex is what we believe is
one flesh
is what makes you one flesh. Any random acts of sex, we do not believe lead to one flesh, because that specific sex is not a sex that was ordained by God when used by the LGBT community. It is something that can be done by a dog. If a dog licks your penis and does oral sex,
you're one dog.
Are you one flesh with the dog?
You're one flesh with the dog.
Let me finish, brother. Let me finish. But brother, you don't let me finish.
You climb,
brother. You don't let me finish.
Yo, JP, you climb
sense, bro.
JP,
you literally just said if a dog licks your
on, brother.
JP, if you climax with a dog, JP, it is one
You're
flesh
one
now,
flesh with the dog. Like that's
according to Rise.
Yeah,
look, I believe that you become one flesh. No, I believe you become one flesh. Right?
Yo, man.
And as we said, you got fornication.
Kevin, was I able to finish my statement?
All
Kevin,
right.
was I able to finish my statement?
Nah, man. Listen,
Can I
it's
finish
agree.
my statement?
It's agree to disagree, man.
I gave
Guys,
you an
I have work
example.
tomorrow.
I gave you an example.
The second you brought in bestiality, your statement became
okay.
Oh, God.
So I take
Okay.
back the statement.
Bro.
I take it back. Let me finish.
That's it.
Let me finish.
Conversation's over.
Okay.
Hold
on. The conversation's not finished.
Because
wait.
Oh,
Let
my
me
God.
finish off.
done.
Okay,
Nah,
all
man.
I was saying was this. You cannot become one flesh with an animal because clearly it's bestiality, right? I was gonna say that you got all crazy and you didn't let me talk. So let me finish my statement by saying The original design is man inside of a vagina, and that is exclusive between man and woman. And we believe that that is what makes you one flesh. Getting oral sex by a random person is an act in which I do not believe is the act which is naturally ordained by God for when you're inside a woman. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, JP. Beautifully said, JP. Beautifully
Okay,
said,
so
my
are we
brother.
done? I made my last.
What is one flesh to you?
I think we're done. I need to go to
We're
sleep. Y'all
done.
killing
We're
me.
done, brother. We're done.
But
Yeah,
JP,
agree to disagree.
We
Right,
agree
let
to
it go.
disagree. That's
Yeah.
it.
No, because you're not
Yeah,
answering
tú
the
ganaste.
question.
You won.
JP,
That's
what
it,
does one
bro.
flesh mean? What does
You
that
won,
mean?
bro. Just tell
What
him
does
he
that
won,
mean?
bro.
For what?
Just tell
What
him
does
he
that mean?
won, JP, so we can go to sleep,
Brother,
man.
brother, you won, Rise. You have to rise. You won.
No, but listen.
Yeah, that's it. You
Even
won,
though
Rise.
the chat says we won,
That's
but
it's
we'll
okay.
tell
It's
you that you
okay.
won.
Answer
It's
the
all right.
question.
What's the question,
okay.
Rise?
We
What
can
is
take it
one
now.
flesh?
JP, don't answer that question, brother.
What is one
That's
flesh?
it.
I think I gave him multiple examples.
That's it.
I'm
Nah,
gonna
fam.
give you 3
We
examples.
good. No, fam, we good. No, we
Answer the
good.
question.
All
What
right.
is one
Say
flesh?
good night. Say good night. Let's
So
all
you're
say
not
our
gonna
good
you're
night.
not gonna say what
I
is one
actually
flesh.
have 3 examples, which Kevin,
Thank
because
the
I
chat.
already answered
Thank
the
you,
question.
chat, for I know. Thank you, chat, for your input. Thank you for your opinions. We appreciate
Kevin's
y'all
closing
so
the show.
much. We love y'all so much. Thank you guys for being with us and dealing
JP,
with
what
us,
is
and
one
for the
flesh?
bestiality jokes we kind of put in there. You know what I mean? Thank you. Okay.
JP, what
We
is
love
one
y'all.
flesh?
Love
is
y'all.
one flesh?
JP, do not answer. Tell the
What is
people
one
in the
flesh?
chat you got nothing
My
but love for
teammate
them.
said not to
Appreciate
answer, so I'm not
What is
gonna
one
answer.
flesh, JP?
We
Rise,
already
ya ganaste,
answered 3
loco.
times.
All right,
You
that's
never
it.
answered what is one
Chat,
flesh.
hold on, Rise. Chat, have I answered what one flesh is?
No, you have
Me and
not.
Kevin.
Go
Hold on,
ahead.
no. I don't
No,
want to
bro.
answer. I don't want to talk to you, Rise. I want to talk to the chat. How many times did me and Kevin answer what one flesh was? Because we did
That's
it
it.
multiple times.
It's clear,
we gave
bro.
an example
We clear.
with. We gave an example when you're married. We gave an example when you're in fornication. We gave an example when you sleep with a prostitute. We gave biblical example. Okay, so we didn't answer it.
You didn't answer it. That's what your problem is. You never
Wait,
answered
Kingdom
what
Daughter
is one
said I
flesh.
did. Kingdom Daughter said that I did.
Okay, bro, no, you never answered. You answered what you believed. Gave
Okay,
you
so
one
let me
flesh.
tell you what.
You don't know what one flesh is.
So once I tell you what becoming one flesh is, would you leave me alone?
Of course.
Okay, so once I tell you this chat is done, right?
Yeah. Once you tell me what is one flesh.
So
just tell me.
Kevin, you heard what he said? Once we answer,
We're done. He's not gonna respond.
Yeah, he's not gonna respond,
He's
we're
gonna
done.
say goodnight. He's gonna
Okay.
close out his live, and we're gonna be good.
okay.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
becoming one
I
flesh.
will take you off the live, and then I'll say my response and then close it.
Oh wow, Kevin! After he said that we were
You're gonna
done.
boot us.
After
That's
he
why I
said
said
we
don't
were
answer
done.
him. That's why I
You
said
see,
don't
Rise
answer
has
him.
too
You're
much
gonna boot us
power.
out, bro.
You
You're
see,
gonna
this
boot
is
us
why I
out.
can't go live on Rise Ministries because this brother has too much power. This brother has too much power,
Yes.
bro. This brother's telling us he's gonna kick us out. He's gonna have the last response. He's controlling the narrative, Rise. You're a scary man, bro. Power corrupts absolutely,
Power
brother.
corrupts absolutely, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, bro.
No, but for real, what is?
Bro, after that threat you just gave me, you think I'm gonna answer?
You see,
After that
sneaky.
threat, brother?
You're sneaky. You don't know what one flesh is. You're
No,
sneaky.
I do know what one flesh is. I'm just not gonna answer, given the fact that you said you
JP,
wouldn't
you're
respond if
sneaky.
you would be done.
JP, you're sneaky. JP, you're sneaky.
Nah, bro.
Nah, man.
What is one flesh? Kevin, what is one flesh?
Nah, man. I
Nah,
plead the
yeah,
fifth.
exactly. Because you guys don't know.
It's
what
not
one flesh is.
exactly. It's
Nah.
the fact that you literally
Yeah,
said you wouldn't respond and end the live, and then you
Because-
said, "No, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
bro.
send y'all."
Because I have to say what I have to say. At the end of the day,
Nah, bro,
guys
that's
don't
not what
know
you
what one
said.
flesh
bro.
Let him get his last word, bro. Let him
Get
get
your
his
last word.
Go ahead.
Get your last word, right?
No,
Go
my
ahead,
last
bro.
word is that you don't know what one flesh is because you have
Okay.
not once.
No,
said
we
what
do
one
know
flesh-
what one flesh
No, you
is,
don't.
which is not gonna answer given
No,
your
you don't.
circumstance.
You don't know it. Because
No,
at the end of
we
the
do
day-
know.
No, you
We-
don't. No,
Kevin,
you
do you know what one flesh is?
don't.
Of course.
You,
You
of
know
course
what
you do.
you know what gets you to one flesh, but
Okay.
you don't know. You're not answering what one flesh is.
No, we know the answer. We're just not gonna answer given the circumstances
Exactly.
of the
Given the
format of the
circumstances.
way you're running this channel.
Given the
So
circumstances.
there's a difference.
JP, keep trying. You're sneaky, but it doesn't work.
I'm not sneaky. You're the we
Oh
told
my
you
God.
let us have the last word,
That's
And
it.
then I will tell you what one
No,
flesh
the
is,
reason
brother.
why I said
We'll
I
even
was,
tell you what two flesh is, brother. We'll give you an extra one. You heard?
you
You know what I'm saying?
JP, you don't know
You
what
out here, brother.
JP,
You have
you
too much
don't know.
power, brother. You
Yeah.
have too much power.
Again, chat, we love y'all. Thank you for all the support, man. Y'all have yourself a good night. Thank you for your input and dealing with us knuckleheads out here. All right?
JP, what is one
Put
flush?
y'all channels in there so we can get the subscribers going.
No.
There you go. Oh, man.
Yo, bro, how you do that?
JP,
Yo.
what's one flush?
There you go. Rise
Unfortunately,
Ministry,
I will
subscribe.
not answer because
Subscribe.
of the way
JP, what's
this-
one flush?
Just pray
I'm not
NYC.
answering, brother.
Subscribe. We
JP,
love
answer the
y'all.
question.
You ain't got
Brother,
the answer, Sway.
You don't got the answer, JP.
Brother,
You
I
don't
got
know
the
what one
answer.
flush
Yo,
is.
JP, laters, brother. Just
Yeah.
JP,
close
you
it in,
don't
brother.
know. You
Kevin
don't know
said
what
he
one
knows,
flush
and I
is,
said I
okay?
know.
You
All right,
don't know.
brother.
You don't know.
See ya.
All right,
All right. Good night, guys.
good night. God bless you guys. Peace
Peace.
out.